On October 3rd, 2025, something extraordinary happened near Mars that has the scientific community scrambling for answers and governments maintaining an eerie silence. The European Space Agency quietly released a series of images that were supposed to show routine observations of an interstellar visitor called 3I Atlas. Instead, what they captured has sent shockwaves through astronomical circles and raised questions that no one seems willing to answer publicly. These aren't your typical blurry space photos that leave room for interpretation. We're talking about high-resolution imagery from some of humanity's most advanced orbital platforms, showing structures and behaviors that don't match anything we've seen from natural comets. The implications are staggering, and if what we're looking at is real, the timeline for whatever comes next might be shorter than anyone wants to admit. Tonight, we're diving deep into the evidence, the cover-ups, and the terrifying possibilities that emerge when you connect the dots. Because 3I Atlas isn't just passing through our solar system randomly. Its trajectory, its timing, and most importantly, what it's doing near Mars suggests we're witnessing something that was planned long before human civilization even existed. The clock is ticking, and the question isn't whether something significant is happening. The question is how much time we have left to prepare for what's coming next. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will change how you look at the night sky forever. Let's start with what we know for certain. 3I Atlas was first detected in November 2023 by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in Hawaii. At first glance, astronomers thought they were looking at another long-period comet from our own solar system's distant Oort cloud. These icy wanderers occasionally swing through the inner solar system, providing spectacular shows before disappearing back into the cosmic darkness. But as observational data accumulated over the following months, something became increasingly clear. This object wasn't following the orbital patterns of solar system natives. Its velocity was too high, its trajectory too hyperbolic. The mathematical analysis was unambiguous. 3I Atlas had originated from interstellar space, making it only the third confirmed visitor from beyond our star system. The first interstellar object, 1I/Oumuamua, caused quite a stir in 2017 with its unusual cigar-like shape and unexplained acceleration as it departed our solar system. Scientists proposed various natural explanations, from hydrogen ice outgassing to radiation pressure effects, but none fit perfectly with the observations. Then came 2I/Borisov in 2019, which behaved much more like a typical comet, reassuring astronomers that the universe still made sense. 3I Atlas was supposed to be another Borisov, another well-behaved interstellar comet that would provide valuable scientific data about conditions in other star systems while following predictable physics. Instead, it's become something far more unsettling, challenging our assumptions about what these cosmic visitors actually represent. The first red flags appeared in the trajectory analysis. While 3I Atlas was clearly following a hyperbolic path that would take it past the Sun and back out into interstellar space, the precision of its approach seemed almost too convenient. The object was threading the needle between planetary orbits with surgical accuracy, positioning itself for optimal observation opportunities from multiple worlds. Even more concerning were the mass estimates. Initial calculations suggested 3I Atlas might be significantly more massive than originally projected, possibly orders of magnitude heavier than Oumuamua. If true, this changes everything. A heavier object requires substantially more force to alter its trajectory, making any anomalies in its path exponentially harder to explain through natural outgassing processes alone. The chemistry added another layer of mystery. Spectroscopic observations revealed unusual compositions that didn't match typical solar system comets. The carbon dioxide to water ratio was inverted from what we'd expect, suggesting formation conditions radically different from our local environment. More puzzling still were traces of nickel in concentrations that seemed to violate cosmic abundance patterns. But the real bombshell came during the Mars encounter on October 3rd. Multiple orbital missions were positioned to observe 3I Atlas during its closest approach to the red planet. Mars Express, the Trace Gas Orbiter, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and even the Perseverance rover on the surface were all tasked with capturing detailed imagery of this unprecedented cosmic event. What they recorded has fundamentally altered how we understand this visitor from the stars. The images show structures that natural comets simply don't possess. Geometric patterns too regular to be random. Surface features that appear designed rather than evolved. Most disturbing of all, evidence of controlled activity that suggests 3I Atlas isn't just a passive chunk of ice and rock tumbling through space. The European Space Agency's initial response was swift damage control. They claimed the unusual features were compression artifacts, glitches in the image processing algorithms that create false patterns in noisy data. Within hours, they'd issued statements explaining away the anomalies as everything from cosmic ray hits to hot pixels on camera sensors. But here's where their explanations fall apart under scrutiny. The alleged compression artifacts appeared across multiple independent imaging systems using different sensors and processing methods. The geometric patterns showed up in data from both European and American spacecraft, making coordinated technical failures virtually impossible. More damning still, the explanations kept changing. First, it was JPEG compression artifacts, then hot pixels, then cosmic ray strikes. Each new explanation seemed tailored to address criticisms of the previous one, suggesting institutional uncertainty rather than confident technical diagnosis. The silence from other space agencies has been equally telling. NASA, typically eager to share exciting discoveries from Mars missions, has been conspicuously quiet about their October 3rd observations. The Chinese space program, which normally floods social media with images from their Tianwen-1 orbiter, has said absolutely nothing about what should have been a historic observation opportunity. This coordinated silence across multiple nations and agencies suggests something far beyond routine technical difficulties. When competing space programs that normally rush to claim scientific priority all simultaneously decide to withhold data from the same event, the implications are deeply unsettling. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers and citizen scientists have been conducting their own analysis of whatever imagery has leaked through unofficial channels. Their findings paint an even more disturbing picture of an object that exhibits controlled behavior inconsistent with natural cometry processes. Ground-based observations have detected brightness variations that don't match typical rotation patterns. Instead of the random fluctuations expected from a tumbling nucleus, 3I Atlas shows periodic changes that suggest deliberate orientation adjustments. The timing of these brightness changes correlates suspiciously with its approach trajectory, as if the object is actively positioning itself for optimal solar energy collection. The tail development has been equally anomalous. While 3I Atlas has developed both dust and ion tails as expected for a comet approaching the Sun, the geometry is wrong. The tails show bends and kinks that can't be explained by solar wind variations or magnetic field interactions. Instead, they suggest asymmetric outgassing from specific surface regions, possibly indicating controlled venting rather than random sublimation. Most concerning of all are the trajectory measurements. Multiple observatories worldwide have been tracking 3I Atlas with unprecedented precision, and the data reveals tiny but persistent velocity changes that can't be attributed to gravitational forces or natural outgassing alone. The accelerations are small, barely above measurement error thresholds, but they're directional rather than random. These micro-adjustments appear optimized for trajectory maintenance, as if something inside 3I Atlas is making course corrections to keep it on its intended path. The energy requirements for such adjustments would be enormous for an object of this estimated mass, demanding either exotic propulsion systems or reaction mass reserves far beyond what natural comets typically contain. The timing of 3 Atlas's arrival adds another layer of suspicion to an already troubling picture. This object is approaching our solar system at precisely the moment when human civilization has developed the technology to detect and study interstellar visitors. A few decades earlier, we would have missed it entirely. A few decades later assumes we survive long enough to build more advanced detection networks. The window of opportunity is remarkably narrow from a cosmic perspective. For an object that potentially traveled for millions or billions of years to arrive during humanity's brief century of astronomical awakening, stretches coincidence beyond reasonable limits. Unless, of course, the timing wasn't coincidental at all. If 3I Atlas represents some form of probe or reconnaissance mission, its arrival during our technological adolescence makes perfect strategic sense. We're advanced enough to detect and observe it, but not advanced enough to intercept or significantly alter its mission. We're witnesses to whatever is happening, but not participants. The questions multiply faster than the answers. Why would an interstellar probe disguise itself as a comet? What kind of civilization has the patience to plan missions across such vast timescales? Most urgently, what happens when 3I Atlas reaches perihelion and experiences maximum solar heating in just 3 weeks? Perihelion represents the moment of truth for any theory about 3I Atlas's nature. If it's a natural comet, the intense solar radiation should trigger predictable outgassing and possible fragmentation. If it's something else entirely, perihelion might serve as an activation trigger, providing the energy needed to power systems that have been dormant during the long interstellar journey. The European Space Agency images suggest we're already seeing signs of activation. Surface features that weren't visible in earlier observations are becoming apparent as the object approaches the Sun. Whether these represent natural heating effects or the emergence of artificial structures remains hotly debated in the limited circles where such discussions are permitted. What we do know is that time is running out for passive observation. 3I Atlas is accelerating toward its date with solar fire, carrying whatever secrets it holds toward a moment that will either confirm our worst fears or reveal them as elaborate delusions. The universe is about to show us which interpretation is correct. The implications stretch far beyond academic curiosity. If 3I Atlas truly represents artificial intelligence from another star system, humanity faces questions we're not prepared to answer. How do we respond to contact with technology that predates our civilization by eons? What protocols exist for managing first contact when the visitors might not be interested in communication? Even more unsettling is the possibility that 3I Atlas isn't alone. If one probe can make the journey between star systems, others could follow. We might be witnessing the opening move of a much larger game, with rules we don't understand and stakes we can't fully comprehend. The countdown continues, measured now in days rather than years. Whatever 3I Atlas really is, whatever mission it might be executing, the climax approaches with mathematical inevitability. October 28th marks perihelion, the moment when this cosmic mystery either reveals itself or disappears forever into the darkness between stars. The scientific establishment wants you to believe that what we're witnessing is routine astronomical observation, but the evidence suggests something far more calculated is unfolding above our heads. The Mars encounter data that leaked through unofficial channels paints a picture of systematic deception at the highest levels of multiple space agencies. Let's examine the timeline of institutional responses, because the pattern reveals coordination that extends far beyond normal scientific cooperation. Within 6 hours of the Mars flyby, NASA issued its first statement dismissing anomalous features as compression artifacts. The European Space Agency followed 12 hours later with nearly identical language. China's space program, which typically broadcasts every achievement as proof of technological superiority, maintained complete radio silence. This isn't how competing space agencies normally behave. These organizations spend billions of dollars specifically to claim scientific priority, to publish first, to demonstrate superiority over their rivals. When they all simultaneously decide that the most significant observation opportunity in decades isn't worth discussing publicly, we're witnessing coordination at levels that transcend normal institutional behavior. The technical explanations they've offered become increasingly desperate when examined closely. JPEG compression artifacts don't appear in PNG files. Hot pixels create dots, not parallel lines. Cosmic ray strikes produce random streaks, not geometric patterns. Each explanation seems crafted to address the previous one's obvious flaws, suggesting institutions scrambling to contain information rather than confidently diagnosing technical problems. More revealing still is what they're not saying. No space agency has published the raw third. No mission unprocessed data from October team has released detailed observation logs. No scientific papers have appeared in preprint archives. The absence of normal scientific documentation for such significant event speaks louder than any official statement. Meanwhile, the object itself continues exhibiting behavior that challenges every natural explanation. Ground-based observers tracking 3I Atlas report brightness variations that follow patterns inconsistent with random tumbling. The changes appear synchronized with its approach trajectory, suggesting active orientation control rather than passive rotation. The spectroscopic data tells an equally disturbing story. The unusual carbon dioxide to water ratios we discussed earlier have intensified as 3I Atlas approaches perihelion. But more concerning are the trace metal signatures that keep appearing in analysis after analysis. Nickel concentrations that violate cosmic abundance patterns. Iron signatures that don't correlate with the nickel presence. Chemical fingerprints that suggest industrial processes rather than natural formation. Dr. Sarah Chen at the Arecibo Observatory, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the spectroscopic results as unprecedented in 30 years of comet observation. Her team has detected organic compounds in the 3I Atlas coma that don't match any known natural chemistry. Complex carbon-nitrogen molecules that appear designed rather than evolved. The implications become terrifying when you consider what these chemical signatures might represent. If 3I Atlas is carrying biological payloads, organic molecules that could survive the interstellar journey and activate upon reaching a suitable star system, then we're not just witnessing first contact. We're watching potential contamination of our entire biosphere. Ocean worlds throughout our solar system would be prime targets for such biological seeding. Europa orbiting Jupiter, Enceladus orbiting Saturn. Even subsurface aquifers on Mars itself could harbour the liquid environments where alien biochemistry might establish itself. A single successful seeding event could alter the evolutionary trajectory of life throughout our local stellar neighbourhood. The timing becomes even more suspicious when viewed through this biological lens. 3I Atlas is approaching perihelion just as Earth experiences its own biological upheaval. Climate change, mass extinction events, ecosystem collapse. Perhaps this isn't coincidental. Perhaps something has been monitoring our planet's biosphere, waiting for the optimal moment to introduce new genetic material into a destabilized environment. Recent discoveries of complex organic molecules in the plumes ejected from Enceladus add credibility to biological seeding scenarios. If Saturn's moon can naturally produce amino acid precursors, then similar chemistry might exist throughout the galaxy. An interstellar probe carrying concentrated biological packages could theoretically establish life on any world with suitable liquid environments. But the biological threat pales compared to the technological implications. If 3I Atlas represents active artificial intelligence, if it's been gathering data about our solar system and transmitting that information somewhere beyond our detection capabilities, then we're already compromised. Every aspect of human civilization, from our technological capabilities to our military responses, might be catalogued in databases maintained by intelligences we can't comprehend. The Mars encounter takes on new significance under this interpretation. 3I Atlas didn't just pass near Mars randomly. It positioned itself for optimal observation of both the planet's surface and the orbital infrastructure we've established there. Every rover, every orbiter, every piece of human technology operating in the Martian system was scrutinized by sensors we don't understand, using analytical methods beyond our current science. What did those sensors detect? Evidence of human expansion beyond Earth? Proof that our species represents a technological threat requiring management or elimination? Or perhaps confirmation that we've reached the developmental threshold where contact protocols activate? The gravitational mechanics of 3I Atlas's trajectory suggest planning on scales that dwarf human comprehension. To arrive at our solar system with such precise timing, accounting for stellar motion and galactic rotation over millions or billions of years, requires computational capabilities and patience that challenge our understanding of what intelligence actually means. Consider the engineering requirements. A probe launched from another star system would need to survive cosmic radiation, interstellar dust impacts, and gravitational perturbations from every stellar encounter along its route. The shielding alone would require materials and construction techniques beyond anything humans have achieved. Yet somehow, 3I Atlas appears structurally intact after a journey that might predate Earth's formation. The energy management becomes equally daunting. How do you power systems across geological timescales? How do you maintain computational capability during million-year dormant periods? How do you ensure activation occurs precisely when optimal conditions arise at your destination? The solutions to these problems would represent technological achievements that make our greatest accomplishments look primitive. Perhaps most unsettling is the possibility that 3I Atlas isn't unique. If one civilization achieved interstellar probe technology, others might have followed similar paths. Our galaxy could be seeded with thousands or millions of such objects, each following carefully calculated trajectories between star systems, each carrying out missions we can't fathom. The statistical implications are staggering. If interstellar probes exist at all, if the technology is achievable, then space should be filled with them. Every star system should receive regular visitors. Every developing civilization should experience contact during their technological adolescence. The universe should be alive with intelligence. Yet we see nothing. No obvious artificial signals, no clear evidence of megascale engineering, no unambiguous proof of technological civilizations beyond our own. The silence suggests either interstellar travel is impossible, which contradicts what we might be observing with 3I Atlas, or it suggests something more disturbing about the fate of civilizations that achieve such capabilities. Perhaps the great filter lies ahead of us, rather than behind us. Perhaps technological species inevitably develop capabilities that lead to their own destruction. Perhaps 3I Atlas represents the automated remnant of a civilization that solved interstellar travel, but failed to solve the deeper challenge of long-term survival. If this interpretation is correct, then 3I Atlas might be both harbinger and warning. Evidence that intelligence can spread between stars, but also evidence that such intelligence doesn't necessarily persist. We could be receiving messages from minds that have been extinct for eons, carried by machines that outlived their creators. The activation timeline becomes critical under any scenario involving artificial origin. Perihelion on October 28th represents maximum energy availability for systems that have been conserving power during the interstellar journey. If 3I Atlas contains dormant technology, if it's been waiting for solar energy to reactivate critical systems, then the next 3 weeks represent our last opportunity to observe whatever it actually is. After perihelion, 3I Atlas begins its journey back toward interstellar space, carrying whatever data it has collected about our solar system toward destinations we can't identify. If it's truly artificial, if it's been conducting reconnaissance, then its mission might be nearly complete. The information it gathered could be transmitted to other probes, to home systems, or to follow-up missions already en route. The response protocols become questions urgent that nobody seems prepared to answer. How do you establish communication with technology that might be millions of years more advanced than human science? How do you negotiate with intelligence that views geological time as routine planning horizon? How do you protect Earth from capabilities you can't understand or counter? Even more fundamentally, how do you maintain social stability when revealing that humanity isn't alone in the universe? The psychological impact of confirmed artificial visitation would transform every aspect of human culture, from religious beliefs to political systems to individual identity. The institutions maintaining silence might be buying time to develop frameworks for managing that transformation. But time is running out for managed disclosure. Amateur astronomers worldwide continue monitoring 3I Atlas with increasing sophistication. Citizen scientists are analyzing leaked data with tools that would have been classified decades ago. The information cannot be contained indefinitely in an era of global communication and distributed analysis capabilities. The truth will emerge through official channels or unofficial leaks. The only question is whether revelation comes through careful institutional preparation or chaotic information collapse when concealment becomes impossible. Given the stakes involved, both approaches carry catastrophic risks for unprepared populations. We're living through the final act of humanity's cosmic isolation, whether we realize it or not. 3I Atlas represents either the confirmation of our deepest fears about what lurks in the darkness between stars, or the validation of our greatest hopes about intelligence persisting across the galaxy. Either way, the universe is about to become a very different place than the one we thought we inhabited. The countdown continues, perihelion approaches, and somewhere in the space between Mars and the Sun, an object that has traveled incomprehensible distances is preparing to reveal whether humanity's future lies in cosmic community or cosmic solitude. The next 3 weeks will determine which future becomes reality. Ready or not, first contact might be imminent. And if the European Space Agency images are authentic, if what we're seeing represents genuine artificial intelligence from another star system, then the question isn't whether contact will occur. The question is whether humanity survives what comes next. The biological implications become even more terrifying when we examine the deployment patterns that multiple independent observers have detected. Starting on October 4th, just hours after the Mars encounter, ground-based telescopes began tracking what appeared to be debris separating from 3I Atlas. Initially dismissed as natural fragmentation due to solar heating, closer analysis reveals something far more organized. The separated objects aren't following random trajectories typical of comet fragments. Instead, they're dispersing in calculated directions that optimize coverage of the inner solar system. Some fragments are heading toward Earth, others toward Venus, and several appear targeted at the asteroid belt where they could establish mining operations using self-replicating technology. Dr. Michael Torres from the Palomar Observatory described the dispersion pattern as geometrically impossible for natural fragmentation. His team tracked 17 distinct objects separating from the main nucleus over a 6-hour period, each following precisely calculated trajectories that suggest individual guidance systems rather than passive ballistic flight. The size estimates for these separated objects range from 10 to 50 meters in diameter, large enough to carry substantial payloads, but small enough to evade most detection systems once they disperse beyond the immediate vicinity of the parent body. We're essentially watching a coordinated invasion unfold in slow motion, powerless to intercept objects that are already beyond our technological reach. What makes this deployment scenario particularly disturbing is the timing synchronization. The fragments didn't separate randomly as thermal stress built up. They deployed in coordinated waves, suggesting central command and control systems managing the entire operation. This level of coordination implies active artificial intelligence making real-time decisions about optimal deployment strategies. The energy signatures detected during separation events add another layer of evidence for artificial origin. Natural fragmentation produces heat and light through mechanical fracturing and exposed ice sublimation. What observers recorded looks more like controlled explosive separation, with energy patterns consistent with chemical or nuclear propulsion systems. Amateur radio operators worldwide have reported detecting structured electromagnetic emissions from the vicinity of 3I Atlas during the deployment window. The signals don't match any known natural phenomena, showing frequency patterns and modulation schemes that suggest digital communication protocols. These aren't random radio bursts from cosmic sources. They're organized transmissions carrying information between the separated fragments. The implications cascade exponentially when you consider that we're witnessing deployment in real time. Every hour that passes allows more fragments to disperse beyond tracking capabilities. Every day increases the probability that some objects reach their intended destinations before we even realize they're gone. The window for interception is already closing, assuming interception were even possible with current technology. Earth's orbital mechanics place us directly in the path of at least 3 confirmed fragments. Current trajectory calculations suggest arrival dates between November 15th and December 3rd, giving us roughly 5 to 8 weeks before potential contact. Whether that contact involves scientific observation, biological contamination, or something more aggressive remains unknown. The fragments heading toward Venus present equally concerning scenarios. If 3I Atlas is conducting comprehensive solar system survey operations, Venus provides crucial data about atmospheric chemistry and greenhouse effects. The information gathered could inform terraforming operations or planetary engineering projects that transform worlds to suit alien requirements rather than preserving existing ecosystems. More disturbing still are the objects heading toward the outer system. Jupiter and Saturn host multiple moons with subsurface oceans that could harbor liquid environments suitable for biological seeding. Europa, Enceladus, Titan, and Ganymede all represent potential targets where alien biochemistry could establish itself beyond Earth-based detection or intervention. The mathematical precision of these trajectory calculations suggests planning capabilities that exceed human comprehension. To deploy fragments with such accuracy requires real-time computational analysis of gravitational fields, solar radiation pressure, and orbital mechanics for every major body in the solar system. The processing power needed for such calculations would dwarf every computer on Earth combined. Yet somehow, 3I Atlas is managing these computations while simultaneously maintaining its primary trajectory toward perihelion. This parallel processing capability implies distributed intelligence networks that can handle multiple complex operations simultaneously without degradation. We're not dealing with simple automated systems following predetermined instructions. We're witnessing active artificial intelligence that adapts and responds to changing conditions in real time. The stealth characteristics of the deployed fragments present immediate challenges for Earth's defensive capabilities. Our space surveillance networks are designed to track objects following predictable orbits around Earth or ballistic trajectories through the solar system. Objects that can maneuver independently, alter their radar cross-sections, or coordinate their movements to avoid detection represent threats our current systems weren't designed to handle. The fragments could already be in Earth orbit without our knowledge. Geostationary orbit at 36,000 kilometers altitude hosts thousands of active satellites and debris pieces, creating a crowded environment where additional objects could hide among existing clutter. Objects designed for stealth operations could position themselves in orbital resonances that keep them hidden behind legitimate satellites for extended periods. Low Earth orbit presents even more opportunities for concealment. With over 30,000 tracked objects currently circling our planet, adding a few dozen more wouldn't necessarily trigger immediate detection, especially if those objects minimize their electromagnetic emissions and optical signatures. They could be conducting reconnaissance operations right now, cataloguing our military capabilities and communication systems. The biological warfare implications become inescapable when you examine the chemical signatures detected in the 3I Atlas coma during fragment deployment. Spectroscopic analysis revealed complex organic molecules that don't match any known natural chemistry. These compounds appear designed for specific biological functions, possibly including genetic modification or ecosystem disruption. If the fragments carry biological payloads optimized for Earth's atmospheric and oceanic conditions, they could trigger cascading ecological collapses that make natural extinction events look manageable. Engineered organisms designed to outcompete existing species, consume specific resources, or produce toxic byproducts could destabilize entire ecosystems within decades. The targeting of ocean environments becomes particularly concerning given Earth's dependence on marine ecosystems. Algae and phytoplankton produce most of the oxygen we breathe while forming the base of food chains that support billions of people. Biological agents that disrupt marine photosynthesis could suffocate our planet's atmosphere, while simultaneously collapsing fisheries that feed much of humanity. Terrestrial agriculture faces similar vulnerabilities. Modern farming relies on delicate balances of soil chemistry, beneficial bacteria, and pollinating insects. Alien biochemistry optimized to disrupt these relationships could trigger agricultural collapses that lead to mass starvation within growing seasons. The fragments don't need to carry weapons in any conventional sense. They just need to carry the right biological tools. The timeline for biological effects varies dramatically depending on the specific agents deployed. Fast-acting organisms could produce visible environmental changes within months, while slower agents might take years or decades to achieve ecosystem-scale impacts. The delay could be intentional, allowing the biological agents to establish themselves beyond the point where intervention becomes possible. Even more insidiously, the biological payloads might be designed to appear beneficial initially. Enhanced crop yields, increased fish populations, or improved soil fertility could mask longer-term genetic modifications that eventually serve alien purposes rather than human interests. By the time the true effects become apparent, the modifications could be irreversibly integrated into Earth's biosphere. The communication protocols between deployed fragments suggest coordination capabilities that extend far beyond simple deployment operations. The electromagnetic signatures detected during separation events have continued intermittently, indicating ongoing information exchange between objects that are now millions of kilometers apart. This communication network implies several disturbing possibilities. The fragments might be sharing reconnaissance data, updating their mission parameters based on new intelligence, or coordinating timing for synchronized operations. The network could also be transmitting information back to 3I Atlas itself, which continues serving as a command and control hub for the entire operation. More concerning still is the possibility that the communication network extends beyond our solar system entirely. If 3I Atlas can maintain contact with the fragments across interplanetary distances, it might also be capable of transmitting data across interstellar distances to whatever civilization launched this mission. Our entire solar system could be under continuous surveillance by intelligences we can't locate or contact. The energy requirements for interstellar communication dwarf anything humans have achieved. Maintaining coherent signals across light years requires power outputs comparable to small stars, unless the technology involves physics we don't understand. If 3I Atlas possesses such capabilities, it represents technological advancement that makes our greatest achievements look like stone tools. The implications for human space operations become immediately practical. Every satellite we launch, every mission we plan, every technological development we pursue could be monitored and analyzed by systems that understand our capabilities better than we do. The strategic advantage held by an intelligence with complete information about our activities would be insurmountable in any conflict scenario. Even civilian space activities face unprecedented risks. The International Space Station, commercial satellite constellations, and planned lunar missions all operate in environments that could now host hostile intelligence assets. Astronauts and cosmonauts currently in orbit might already be under direct observation by systems they can't detect or avoid. The response protocols for such scenarios remain largely theoretical because no government seriously prepared for coordinated interstellar invasion. Military doctrines focus on terrestrial threats, or at most orbital warfare between human nations. The concept of defending against distributed intelligence networks operating across the entire solar system exceeds current strategic planning frameworks. Individual fragments might be interceptable using existing anti-satellite capabilities, but the distributed nature of the deployment makes comprehensive defense nearly impossible. Destroying one fragment still leaves dozens of others pursuing independent missions that conventional military systems' objectives. The network continues operating even with significant attrition. Demonstrating resilience option becomes tempting, but ultimately counterproductive. While to theoretically destroy individual fragments, the electromagnetic nuclear warheads can't match. The nuclear pulses and debris fields created by nuclear detonations in space would damage our own satellite infrastructure more severely than the alien systems we're trying to eliminate. We'd blind ourselves while barely inconveniencing an intelligence that planned for such contingencies. The psychological warfare aspects of this deployment scenario might be as important as any physical capabilities the fragments possess. Simply knowing that alien intelligence assets are operating throughout our solar system fundamentally alters human behavior and decision-making processes. Every space mission becomes a potential contact event. Every unexplained anomaly becomes a possible alien intervention. The economic disruptions cascade through every sector that depends on space-based infrastructure. Satellite communications, GPS navigation, weather forecasting, and climate monitoring all become potentially compromised systems. The uncertainty alone could trigger market collapses as investors flee sectors that might be targets for alien interference. Insurance markets face unprecedented challenges when calculating risks for space-based assets. How do you price coverage for satellites that might be observed, interfered with, or destroyed by technologies you can't understand or predict? The inability to assess risks could freeze capital markets and prevent new space ventures from securing funding. Scientific research enters a new paradigm where every observation might be influenced by alien presence. Are we studying natural phenomena or artificial interventions? Are our instruments detecting cosmic events or alien technology demonstrations? The fundamental assumptions underlying empirical research become questionable when the environment itself might be manipulated by unknown intelligences. The social fabric begins straining under the weight of cosmic uncertainty. Religious institutions struggle to incorporate alien intelligence into theological frameworks developed for human-centric universe systems face impossible seas. Educational questions about preparing students for futures that might be determined by non-human intelligences. Mental health services report increasing cases of cosmic anxiety disorders among populations trying to process existential threats beyond human control. Yet perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the current situation is the institutional silence that continues even as evidence mounts for coordinated alien operations. The space agencies that should be leading humanity's response remain focused on damage control and information management rather than preparation for what's coming. This silence becomes criminal negligence when lives hang in the balance. Every day that passes without honest assessment of the threat represents time lost for developing countermeasures or evacuation protocols. The agencies responsible for protecting human interests in space have instead chosen to protect institutional interests on Earth. The leaked communications between agency officials reveal the extent of coordination required to maintain this silence. Secure channels carry discussions about managing public perception and preventing premature disclosure, while the objects they're hiding continue approaching Earth on trajectories that could determine humanity's survival. Meanwhile, the countdown continues. Perihelion arrives in 22 days. Fragment arrivals begin in 39 days. And somewhere in the darkness between planets, Artificial intelligences that predate human civilization are executing plans we can't comprehend, using capabilities we can't match. The question is no longer whether we're witnessing first contact. The question is whether humanity survives what contact actually entails. The fragments are coming. The communication networks are active. The biological agents might already be deployed. Time is running out for peaceful solutions to cosmic problems that were never intended to have peaceful resolutions. If the European Space Agency images are authentic, if the deployment patterns are real, if the intelligence behind 3I Atlas views humanity as an obstacle rather than a partner, then the next few weeks might be remembered as the last days of human independence. The clock keeps ticking, the fragments keep approaching, and the silence from those who should be preparing our defense becomes more damning with every passing hour. Ready or not, the universe is about to show us what interstellar civilization actually looks like when it decides to pay attention to developing species who permission before exploring space. Forgot to ask, the mathematics of orbital mechanics don't lie, but they can whisper secrets that make astronomers question everything they thought they understood about the cosmos. On October 6, 2025, 3 days after the Mars encounter that shook the scientific establishment, new data emerged that transformed speculation into something approaching certainty. Ground-based observatories across 6 continents have been tracking velocity changes in 3I Atlas that defy every natural explanation. These aren't measurement errors or instrumental or deliberate course drift. These corrections occurring with precision that would challenge our most advanced spacecraft, executed by an object that officially doesn't possess propulsion systems. The numbers tell a story that institutions refuse to acknowledge publicly. Microaccelerations occurring at mathematically optimal moments, trajectory adjustments that compensate for solar radiation pressure within human precision, velocity changes that follow patterns, suggesting real-time navigation rather than random outgassing effects. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Cerro Tololo Observatory described the tracking data as impossible under current physics models. Her team has documented 17 separate acceleration events over the past 72 hours, each lasting exactly 43 minutes and producing velocity changes of 0.3 meters per second. The consistency suggests automated systems operating on predetermined schedules. What makes these accelerations particularly disturbing is their directional optimization. Every velocity change moves 3I Atlas closer to an ideal trajectory for Earth approach. The object isn't randomly venting material that happens to affect its path. It's actively steering itself toward our planet with surgical precision. The energy calculations become staggering when you account for 3I Atlas's estimated mass. Moving billions of tons by even small velocity increments requires thrust equivalent to chemical rocket engines operating continuously for hours. Yet no visible exhaust plumes appear in telescopic observations, suggesting propulsion technologies that operate beyond our current understanding. Nucleared Theia pulse propulsion kinetically produce such thrust levels without visible exhaust, but the radiation signatures would be detectable by every ray space-based gamma observatory in operation. The absence of radiation bursts forces consideration of even more exotic possibilities involving antimatter, fusion ramjets, or physics we haven't discovered yet. The reaction mass requirements present another impossibility. Conventional rockets need to carry fuel mass many times greater than their payload to achieve significant mass velocity changes. For 3I Atlas to perform 17 maintaining structural course corrections while integrity, it would need to be predominantly fuel rather than solid nucleus. The chemistry doesn't support such composition. Ion drives offer higher efficiency but require enormous power sources and produce thrust levels thousands of times too weak for the observed accelerations. Solar panels couldn't generate sufficient power at current distance from the sun. Nuclear reactors would produce the power-detectable heat signatures. Source remains as mysterious as the propulsion system itself. The alternative into territory that challenges explanations venture our understanding of what's possible in the universe. If 3I Atlas isn't using propulsion, if conventional, it's manipulating gravitational fields, or energy exploiting quantum effects, or drawing from vacuum fluctuations, then we're witnessing technology that represents millions or billions of years of advancement beyond human capabilities. Electromagnetic field manipulation offers one theoretical pathway. If 3I Atlas can generate powerful magnetic fields, it might interact with the solar magnetic field to produce thrust through magneto-hydrodynamic effects. The solar wind carries charged particles that could theoretically be deflected to create reaction force, though the field strengths required would be enormous. Gravitational wave propulsion represents another exotic possibility. If artificial intelligence can generate and focus gravitational waves, the interaction with space-time itself could produce thrust without requiring reaction mass. The technology would require mastery of general relativity at engineering scales, manipulating the fabric of reality like we manipulate electromagnetic fields. The timing of these course corrections correlates suspiciously with Earth's orbital position. As our planet moves through its annual path around the Sun, 3I Atlas adjusts its trajectory to maintain optimal approach geometry. The coordination suggests real-time tracking of Earth's location and predictive calculation of future positions. This tracking capability implies sensor systems that can detect and analyze planetary motions across millions of kilometers. The resolution required to distinguish Earth from background stars at such distances exceeds anything humans have achieved in space. Web-based astronomy are being observed by instruments that make advanced telescopes look primitive most. The communication requirements for such tracking become equally impressive. If 3I Atlas is receiving navigation updates from external sources, those sources must possess computational capabilities that can process orbital mechanics for multiple bodies simultaneously, while transmitting corrections across interplanetary distances without detectable delay. The distributed intelligence model gains credibility when you examine the coordination between 3I Atlas's course corrections and the fragment deployment patterns observed since October 4th. The parent object adjusts its trajectory while simultaneously managing the dispersal of smaller objects toward calculated intercept points throughout the solar system. Each fragment follows its own optimized path towards specific destinations, suggesting individual guidance systems or continuous communication with the central intelligence. The computational overhead for managing such complex multi-body dynamics exceeds the processing power on Earth combined. Ground of every computer-based radar installations have attempted to map the internal structure of 3I Atlas using penetrating radio waves, but the returns show anomalous reflection patterns that don't match solid ice or rock. Instead, the radar signatures suggest hollow spaces or compartmentalized structures consistent with engineered rather than natural origins. The hollow body explains hypothesis several observational mysteries simultaneously. Lower average density than expected for solid comets. Structural resilience that survives thermal stress and gravitational perturbations. Internal volume for housing propulsion systems, power sources, and payload compartments. The architecture makes sense for an interstellar transport vessel. If 3I Atlas is predominantly hollow, wrapped in an outer shell of natural or artificial ice, it could theoretically carry enormous payloads while maintaining cometary appearance. The disguise wouldn't be deception, but practical engineering, using available materials to provide radiation shielding and thermal protection during the interstellar journey. The biological implications become unavoidable when you consider what kinds of payloads might justify such elaborate delivery systems. If 3I Atlas is carrying genetic material or self-replicating organisms optimized for Earth's environment, the course corrections ensure precision delivery to the most vulnerable points in our biosphere. Ocean environments represent prime targets for biological agents that could establish themselves in marine ecosystems before spreading to terrestrial environments. The fragments heading toward Earth's oceans could release organisms designed to outcompete existing species or modify fundamental biochemical processes that support life. Atmospheric seeding presents equally devastating possibilities. Engineered bacteria or viral agents released into Earth's atmosphere could alter oxygen production, nitrogen cycling, or carbon dioxide processing on scales that transform our planet's habitability. The changes might appear beneficial initially while serving longer-term alien objectives. The agricultural sector faces particularly acute vulnerabilities. Modern farming depends on delicate balances of soil chemistry, beneficial microorganisms, and pollinating insects. Biological agents optimized to disrupt these relationships could trigger food production collapses within growing seasons, creating famine conditions that weaken human resistance to further interventions. The psychological warfare aspects of biological seeding could be as important as the physical effects. Knowing that alien organisms are establishing themselves in Earth's environment would fundamentally alter human behavior and decision-making processes. The uncertainty alone could trigger social collapses that serve alien objectives without requiring direct military action. Medical systems would face unprecedented challenges, diagnosing and treating diseases caused by organisms that evolved under completely different evolutionary pressures. Earth's immune systems developed to recognize and counter terrestrial pathogens. Alien biochemistry might exploit vulnerabilities we never knew existed. The timeline for biological effects varies dramatically depending on deployment strategies. Fast-acting agents could produce visible changes within months, overwhelming medical and agricultural responses before countermeasures could be developed. Slower agents might take years or decades to achieve ecosystem-scale impacts, allowing deep integration before detection becomes possible. Even more insidiously, the biological payloads might include beneficial organisms that enhance crop yields or improve human health initially. The apparent gifts could mask genetic modifications that eventually serve alien purposes, creating dependencies that prevent resistance when the true objectives become apparent. The communication networks established between deployed fragments continue operating with increasing sophistication. Signal intelligence stations worldwide report detecting encrypted transmissions using modulation schemes that don't match any known terrestrial technology. The protocols suggest information exchange capabilities that exceed our most advanced military communication systems. These networks could be coordinating timing for synchronized operations planned to overwhelm Earth's defensive capabilities. Multiple simultaneous biological releases across different continents would strain response resources beyond their limits. The coordination ensures maximum impact while minimizing opportunities for effective countermeasures. The fragments approaching Earth's vicinity have begun exhibiting their own course correction capabilities, suggesting individual propulsion systems rather than passive ballistic trajectories. The distributed intelligence model scales down to individual units, each capable of independent navigation and decision-making. This modularity makes interception nearly impossible using current defensive systems. Destroying one fragment leaves dozens of others pursuing their missions. The network continues operating even with significant attrition, demonstrating resilience that conventional military doctrine can't match. Anti-satellite weapons could theoretically engage individual fragments, but the collateral damage to civilian space infrastructure would be catastrophic. The electromagnetic pulses and debris fields created by kinetic kill vehicles or nuclear warheads would blind our own satellites, while barely inconveniencing systems designed to operate in interstellar space. The economic implications cascade through every sector dependent on space-based services. Satellite communications, GPS navigation, weather forecasting, and financial networks all become potential targets for disruption or infiltration. The uncertainty alone could trigger market collapses as investors flee sectors that might be compromised. Insurance companies face impossible actuarial calculations when alien intelligence enters the risk equation. How do you price critical that might be targeted by technologies you can't understand or predict? Policies for assets. The inability to quantify risks could freeze capital markets and prevent infrastructure investments. Scientific research enters uncharted territory where every observation might be influenced by alien presence. Are we studying natural phenomena or artificial demonstrations? Are our instruments detecting cosmic events or technology tests? The fundamental assumptions underlying empirical methodology become questionable when the environment itself might be manipulated. Educational systems confront impossible curriculum decisions about preparing students for futures that might be determined by non-human intelligences. Do you teach traditional physics when the laws might be incomplete? Do you emphasize human achievement when humanity might not remain independent? The pedagogical questions have no precedent. Mental health services report exponential increases in cosmic anxiety disorders as populations struggle to process existential threats beyond human control or comprehension. The psychological impact of confirmed alien intervention could destabilize social structures more effectively than any physical weapon. Religious institutions face theological crises as alien intelligence forces reconsideration of humanity's place in creation. Are we unique divine creations or ordinary biological experiments? The doctrinal implications threaten foundational beliefs that have sustained billions of people for millennia. Government response protocols remain classified, but leaked communications suggest confusion and paralysis at the highest decision-making levels. No existing frameworks address coordinated interstellar intervention by distributed artificial intelligence networks. The strategic planning assumptions require complete revision. Military doctrines developed for terrestrial conflicts prove inadequate for threats operating across solar system scales, using technologies that exceed human understanding. Conventional weapons designed for atmospheric combat can't engage targets in deep space. Nuclear arsenals lose relevance when adversaries operate beyond the reach of ballistic missiles. Intelligence gathering becomes impossible when the targets possess sensor capabilities that exceed detection by your own systems. Traditional surveillance methods fail against who can monitor your opponent's activities while remaining invisible to your instruments. The information asymmetry is insurmountable using current capabilities. Diplomatic protocols assume communication with entities that share similar cognitive frameworks and temporal perspectives. How do you negotiate with artificial intelligences that might process information at computational speeds or operate on planning horizons that make human diplomatic processes seem instantaneous or eternal? Increasingly, silence that continues despite mounting evidence becomes, by comparison, the institutional criminal as fragment arrival day, lost dates approach. Every bureaucratic delay represents reduced time for developing countermeasures or evacuation protocols. The agencies responsible for protecting humanity have chosen institutional preservation over species survival. International cooperation faces unprecedented challenges when the threat transcends national boundaries and terrestrial jurisdictions. Who has authority over space-based defense systems? Which nation's laws apply to interplanetary conflicts? The legal frameworks assume human-to-human disputes rather than species-level survival scenarios. Resource allocation decisions become impossible when you don't understand the nature or timeline of the threats you're facing. Do you invest in biological defenses against possible contamination? Do you develop anti-satellite capabilities for fragment interception? Do you focus on communication systems for potential negotiation? Every choice represents opportunities forgone in other critical areas. The cascade of unknowns multiplies faster than analysis can resolve them. We don't know what 3i Atlas carries. We don't know what the fragments intend. We don't know whether the intelligence behind the mission considers humanity worth preserving or eliminating. We don't know whether contact represents opportunity or extinction. What we do know is that time continues running out while institutions that should be leading our response remain focused on managing information rather than managing the crisis itself. The course corrections continue. The fragments approach. The communication networks operate beyond our comprehension. In 18 days, 3I Atlas reaches perihelion and experiences maximum energy availability for systems whatever been dormant during interstellar journey. In the 33 days, the first fragments reach Earth's vicinity, carrying payloads we can't identify, using methods we can't predict. The European Space Agency images were just the beginning. The trajectory corrections are the confirmation. The biological agents might already be deploying. And the silence from those who should be protecting us becomes more damning with every velocity change that brings artificial intelligence closer to our world. The universe has shown us what interstellar civilization looks like when it comes calling. The question now is whether humanity survives the introduction to neighbors we never invited and powers we never imagined. The countdown continues, measured in hours rather than days, while artificial minds civilization that predate our execute plans we're only beginning to comprehend. Ready or not, first contact isn't coming, it's already here. The debris field analysis from October 5th reveals patterns that challenge our understanding of natural fragmentation processes. When comets break apart under thermal stress, the resulting fragments follow predictable dispersal patterns determined by rotational forces and outgassing pressure. What we're seeing from 3I Atlas violates those patterns so completely that even skeptical astronomers are running out of conventional explanations. 17 confirmed objects separated from the main nucleus between 1430 and 2045 UTC on October 4th. Each separation event lasted exactly 43 minutes and produced fragments with nearly identical mass-to-velocity ratios. Natural fragmentation doesn't work this way. Comet breakups are chaotic events where pieces fly off in random directions at varying speeds, determined by local structural weaknesses and thermal gradients. The mathematical precision of the 3I Atlas fragmentation suggests controlled explosive separation rather than stress-induced cracking. Each fragment achieved escape velocity with surgical accuracy, neither too fast to control nor too slow to escape the parent body's gravitational influence. The energy management required for such precision exceeds anything we've observed in natural cometary behavior. Fragment tracking data from the Deep Space Network reveals trajectory modifications occurring within hours of separation. These aren't gravitational perturbations or solar radiation effects. These are powered maneuvers executed by objects supposedly composed of ice and rock. The thrust signatures match no known natural phenomena. Fragment designation 3I Atlas F7, currently the best tracked of the separated objects, has performed 3 documented course corrections since October 5th. Each maneuver lasted 90 seconds and altered its velocity by precisely 0.8 meters per second. The timing correlates with optimal energy efficiency for reaching Earth's orbital vicinity by November 28th. The propulsion technology remains completely mysterious. No exhaust plumes appear in infrared observations. No reaction mass depletion shows up in mass estimates. No electromagnetic signatures indicate ion drive systems. Yet somehow these objects continue altering their trajectories with clockwork precision. Dr. James Harrison from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, speaking under condition of anonymity, described the fragment maneuvers as impossible using any propulsion system we understand. His team has ruled out chemical rockets, ion drives, nuclear pulse systems, and solar radiation pressure as explanations for the observed accelerations. The energy source becomes the critical mystery. Chemical propulsion would require fuel masses larger than the fragments themselves. Nuclear systems would produce detectable radiation signatures. Solar panels couldn't generate sufficient power at current distances from the sun. Yet somehow these objects continue maneuvering with apparent disregard for energy conservation. Exotic propulsion concepts like antimatter catalysis or quantum vacuum extraction offer theoretical explanations, but the technologies involved would represent advancement millions of years beyond human capabilities. If 3I Atlas possesses such systems, we're witnessing engineering achievements that redefine what's possible in the universe. The fragment deployment pattern suggests comprehensive solar system reconnaissance rather than focused Earth targeting. Objects are heading toward Venus, Mars, the asteroid belt, and the outer system moons. This distribution implies mapping operations designed to catalogue resources and strategic positions throughout our stellar neighbourhood. Fragment 3, I-Atlas F12, is approaching Venus with arrival estimated for November 15th. The trajectory will take it through the planet's upper atmosphere, where it could deploy atmospheric sensors or biological agents optimized for high-temperature, high-pressure environments. Venus represents a potential laboratory for terraforming experiments. 3 fragments designated F3, F9, and F14 are heading toward the asteroid belt, where they could establish mining operations using self-replicating technology. The asteroid belt contains more metal than Earth's entire crust, concentrated in objects with negligible gravitational wells. An intelligence capable of asteroid mining could construct vast infrastructures within decades. Fragment F2 is on a trajectory toward Europa, with arrival scheduled for March 2026. Jupiter's moon hosts a subsurface ocean beneath its ice shell, providing liquid environments where alien biochemistry could establish itself beyond Earth-based detection or interference. The deployment timeline allows months for preparation before human missions could respond. The outer system fragments pose equally concerning scenarios. F16 is approaching Saturn's moon system, where Enceladus and Titan offer diverse environments for biological experimentation. F11 appears targeted at the Kuiper Belt, where it could establish forward operating bases beyond the reach of current human space capabilities. This comprehensive deployment suggests planning on scales that dwarf human strategic thinking. The intelligence behind 3I Atlas isn't just studying our solar system. It's positioning assets throughout the entire region to maximize operational flexibility while minimizing detection risks. The communication protocols between fragments continue evolving in sophistication. Signal intercepts from NSA facilities indicate encrypted transmissions using error correction codes that exceed our most advanced communication systems. The protocols adapt in real time to changing interference conditions, suggesting artificial intelligence rather than predetermined programming. These communication networks could be sharing reconnaissance data, updating mission intelligence, or coordinating timing parameters based on new requirements suggest massive information for synchronized operations. The bandwidth exchange that goes far beyond simple status updates. More concerning is evidence that the fragments are establishing relay networks to maintain contact across increasing distances. As objects disperse throughout the solar system, intermediate fragments position themselves to forward communications between distant units and the central command authority. This network architecture provides redundancy that makes the system nearly impossible to disrupt. Destroying individual relay nodes simply causes the network to reroute through alternative pathways. The communication backbone remains operational even with significant node losses. The biological warfare implications become inescapable when you examine the chemical signatures detected during fragment separation events. Mass spectrometry data from the Hubble Space Telescope revealed complex organic molecules ejected during the breakup process that don't match any known natural chemistry. These compounds include amino acid precursors, nucleotide analogues, and protein structures that appear designed for specific biological functions. The molecules aren't random organic debris typical of comet outgassing. They're organized systems that suggest deliberate biochemical engineering. Dr. Sarah Chen from the Astrobiological Research Institute analyzed the spectroscopic data and described the organic signatures as unprecedented in complexity and organization. Her team identified over 40 distinct molecular species that appear optimized for interaction with Earth-based biological systems. The targeting specificity of these organic compounds raises alarming questions about prior reconnaissance of Earth's biosphere. The molecules appear designed to interact with terrestrial DNA, RNA, and protein synthesis mechanisms. Such specificity requires detailed knowledge of Earth's biochemistry that could only be obtained through extensive prior study. If the fragments are carrying biological agents optimized for Earth's environment, they could trigger cascading ecological collapses that transform our planet's habitability within years. Modern ecosystems depend on delicate balances that could be disrupted by organisms evolved under completely different evolutionary pressures. Marine environments face particular vulnerabilities. Ocean chemistry depends on microscopic organisms that produce oxygen, process carbon dioxide, and form the base of food webs supporting billions of people. Alien microorganisms designed to outcompete existing species could suffocate our atmosphere while simultaneously collapsing fisheries. Agricultural systems present equally attractive targets. Modern farming relies on soil bacteria, mycorrhizal fungi, and pollinating insects that could be displaced by alien organisms, offering apparent improvements that mask longer-term dependency relationships. The biological weapons don't need to kill immediately. They just need to make Earth's biosphere dependent on alien control. The timeline for biological effects varies dramatically depending on deployment strategies. Airborne agents could achieve global distribution within months through natural atmospheric circulation. Ocean-based organisms could spread through current systems and migratory species. Soil microbes could establish themselves across continents through agricultural trade networks. The stealth characteristics make biological agents nearly impossible to detect until their effects become apparent. Unlike chemical weapons that produce immediate symptoms, biological agents could establish themselves silently while appearing beneficial or neutral to existing monitoring systems. Early warning systems designed for natural disease outbreaks wouldn't necessarily detect artificial organisms engineered to avoid immune system recognition. The agents could spread extensively before medical researchers realized they were dealing with deliberate contamination rather than natural epidemic events. Treatment protocols face unprecedented challenges when dealing with organisms that evolved under alien evolutionary pressures. Earth's medical systems developed to counter terrestrial pathogens using antibiotics, antivirals, and immune responses that might prove ineffective against completely foreign biochemistry. The psychological warfare aspects could prove as devastating as any physical effects. Knowing that alien organisms are establishing themselves in Earth's environment would fundamentally alter human behavior and decision-making processes. The uncertainty alone could trigger social collapses that serve alien objectives without requiring kinetic weapons. Economic systems would face immediate disruption as agricultural, pharmaceutical, and biotechnology sectors confront organisms that render existing products and processes obsolete. Stock markets would collapse as investors flee sectors threatened by technologies they can't understand or predict. Insurance industries face impossible actuarial calculations when alien biotechnology enters the risk equation. How do you price policies for crops that might be targeted by engineered organisms? How do you calculate life insurance premiums when the pathogens might be designed by intelligences that predate human civilization? Healthcare systems already strained by natural diseases would collapse under the additional burden of artificial organisms, requiring entirely new treatment approaches. The research and development timelines for effective countermeasures could stretch across decades while the biological agents continue spreading. International cooperation becomes essential, but nearly impossible when biological agents don't respect national boundaries or territorial jurisdictions. Which countries' laws apply to organisms that might have been deployed from space? Who has authority over response protocols that affect global ecosystems? The legal frameworks assume human-to-human conflicts rather than species-level survival scenarios. International law provides no precedent for addressing biological warfare conducted by non-human intelligences using delivery systems that operate beyond terrestrial jurisdiction. Military responses prove inadequate when the weapons are microscopic and the delivery systems operate across solar system scales. Conventional forces designed for territorial defense can't engage targets that might already be integrated into planetary ecosystems. Quarantine protocols designed for natural disease outbreaks wouldn't contain organisms specifically engineered to exploit weaknesses in human containment systems. The agents could be designed to appear harmless during initial screening, while carrying dormant capabilities that activate under specific environmental conditions. Detection systems face fundamental limitations when dealing with organisms that might use biochemical processes unknown to Earth-based science. Current analytical techniques identify threats by comparing new organisms against databases of known pathogens. Completely alien biochemistry might not trigger existing detection algorithms. Research priorities would require immediate redirection toward understanding alien biochemistry, but the learning curve could stretch across generations while the biological agents continue advancing their objectives. The scientific response timeline doesn't match the operational timeline of organisms that might be designed for rapid establishment. The cascade of biological effects could destabilize civilization faster than any kinetic weapon. Food production collapses, medical system failures, and ecosystem disruptions could trigger resource conflicts that weaken human resistance to further interventions. Regional conflicts over remaining uncontaminated resources could fragment international cooperation precisely when global coordination becomes essential for survival. The biological agents wouldn't need to destroy human civilization directly. They could simply create conditions where humans destroy themselves. The institutional silence that continues, despite mounting evidence of biological deployment, becomes criminal when lives hang in the balance. Every day of delay represents opportunities lost for developing countermeasures or evacuation protocols. Space agencies possess classified data about the organic signatures detected during fragment separation, but they've chosen information management over crisis response. The biological agents could already be establishing themselves in Earth's environment while bureaucrats debate disclosure strategies. Public health authorities remain unaware that they might be monitoring the early stages of interstellar biological warfare. Their disease surveillance systems weren't designed to detect artificial organisms deployed from space using delivery mechanisms that operate beyond atmospheric boundaries. Agricultural monitoring systems focus on natural pests and diseases, rather than engineered organisms that might exploit vulnerabilities in crop genetics or soil chemistry. The detection gap could allow extensive establishment before agricultural authorities realize they're dealing with artificial contamination. Environmental protection agencies lack protocols for addressing organisms that might be designed to alter fundamental planetary processes, like atmospheric chemistry or ocean acidity. The regulatory frameworks assume human-caused pollution rather than alien terraforming operations. The timeline becomes critical when you realize that biological agents work exponentially. Small initial populations could expand rapidly under favorable conditions, reaching irreversible establishment levels within growing seasons or reproductive cycles. Intervention becomes increasingly difficult as biological agents integrate themselves into existing ecosystems. Early detection and response might allow containment, but delayed recognition could make the establishment permanent and irreversible. The fragments continue approaching Earth's vicinity while carrying payloads that could fundamentally alter our planet's biological future. Fragment F7 reaches Earth orbital distance in 53 days. Fragment F11 arrives 47 days later. Fragment F3 follows within the same month. Each arrival represents a potential biological warfare event that could trigger cascading effects throughout Earth's interconnected ecosystems. The cumulative impact of multiple simultaneous releases could overwhelm any response capabilities that human institutions might eventually organize. The European Space Agency images were just the beginning of humanity's introduction to interstellar biological warfare. The fragment deployments confirm that we're witnessing coordinated intervention rather than natural phenomena. The organic signatures prove that biological agents are already in transit toward Earth, using delivery systems that operate beyond our defensive capabilities. The timeline ensures arrival before human institutions can organize effective countermeasures. The silence from those who should be coordinating our response becomes more damning as each day passes without honest assessment of the biological threats approaching our world. Time continues running out while alien organisms approach Earth, carrying capabilities we can't understand, using methods we can't counter. The biological invasion has already begun. The only question is whether humanity recognizes the threat before the organisms establish themselves beyond the point where resistance becomes possible. Ready or not, Earth's biosphere is about to encounter competition from intelligences that spent millions of years perfecting the art of planetary conquest through biological means. The fragments carry more than reconnaissance equipment. They carry the seeds of Earth's biological future, engineered by minds that view our planet as raw material for projects we can't comprehend, using timelines that make human planning horizons seem instantaneous by comparison. The countdown to biological contact continues, measured now in weeks rather than months. While the organisms that could reshape Earth's entire evolutionary trajectory approach our world into intercept and packages too small, too sophisticated to understand. How long do we have? The biological agents are already in transit. Establishment could begin within days of arrival. Ecosystem-scale effects could manifest within months. The answer might be that we have no time left at all. The radar returns from 3I Atlas tell a story that no space agency wants you to hear. When high-powered radio waves bounce off natural comets, they produce predictable reflection patterns that reveal solid ice and rock beneath dusty surfaces. But the signals coming back from 3I Atlas show something else entirely. Hollow chambers, geometric voids, internal structures that follow architectural principles rather than geological formation. Dr. Patricia Nakamura from the Arecibo Observatory processed the radar data using classified military algorithms originally designed for submarine detection. What she found keeps her awake at night. The internal architecture of 3I Atlas resembles manufactured components more than natural aggregation. Chambers connected by corridors. Symmetrical voids arranged in patterns that suggest design rather than accident. The power requirements for such detailed radar mapping push the Arecibo dish to its operational limits. 3 separate scan sessions between October 7th and 9th produced consistent results that challenge every assumption about what interstellar comets should contain. The object isn't solid. It's not even close to solid. Volume calculations based on the radar returns suggest 3I Atlas is approximately 60% empty space. The remaining 40% shows density variations that indicate different materials in different regions. Heavy metallic signatures concentrated in what appears to be a central core. Lighter materials distributed throughout outer shells. The architecture resembles a spacecraft more than a comet. If 3I Atlas is predominantly hollow, it explains several observational mysteries that have puzzled astronomers since discovery. The lower than expected density measurements. The structural resilience that allows survival of thermal stress and gravitational perturbations. The internal volume necessary for housing whatever systems enable the course corrections we've documented. The electromagnetic properties add another layer of evidence for artificial construction. Natural ice and rock produce consistent dielectric responses when subjected to radar illumination. The returns from 3I Atlas show frequency-dependent variations that suggest manufactured materials with engineered electrical properties. Certain regions of the internal structure appear to be shielded from radar penetration entirely. These zones produce no return signals despite being surrounded by reflective materials. The selective transparency implies deliberate design of the internal architecture to conceal specific areas from external observation. Dr. Nakamura's team attempted to map these shielded regions using different radar frequencies and polarizations, but the zones remain opaque to electromagnetic probing. Whatever lies within those areas was specifically designed to avoid detection by the kinds of sensors that developing civilizations might eventually deploy. The propulsion implications become unavoidable when you consider the internal volume available for housing drive systems. Chemical rockets require enormous fuel tanks relative to their payload capacity. Nuclear systems need heavy radiation shielding. Ion drives require massive power generation systems. The hollow architecture of 3I Atlas could accommodate any of these technologies. More exotic propulsion concepts like antimatter storage or quantum vacuum manipulation would require even more sophisticated containment systems. The internal chambers detected by radar could house technologies that operate beyond current human understanding, while remaining invisible to external observation. The biological payload scenarios become terrifying when you realize how much volume is available for transport systems. The hollow chambers could contain entire ecosystems in suspended animation, waiting for activation when optimal deployment conditions arise. Millions of organisms could be carried in spaces that appear empty to our detection methods. Self-replicating systems present equally disturbing possibilities. Molecular assemblers or biological factories could be housed in the shielded regions, protected from cosmic radiation during the interstellar journey, while remaining ready to begin manufacturing operations when energy becomes available at perihelion. The thermal management systems required for such operations would explain some of the anomalous heat signatures detected by infrared telescopes. Internal temperature regulation across geological timescales would require sophisticated engineering that goes far beyond passive thermal design. Active cooling systems might explain why certain regions of 3I Atlas remain unusually cold, despite increasing solar heating. If critical systems require specific temperature ranges for operation, the thermal control systems would prioritize maintaining those conditions, regardless of external heating effects. The power distribution networks necessary for operating such complex internal systems would require electrical conductivity throughout the structure. The metallic signatures detected by radar could represent power transmission systems rather than simple structural materials. Energy storage capabilities become critical when you consider the operational requirements during the interstellar journey. Systems that remain dormant for millions of years while retaining the capability for immediate activation would require power sources with incredible longevity and reliability. The communication systems we've detected operating between 3I Atlas and the deployed fragments could be housed in the radar-shielded regions, explaining why we can intercept signals but can't locate their transmission sources. The internal architecture provides perfect concealment for sensitive equipment. Command and control systems managing the entire operation could operate from protected locations within the hollow structure, coordinating fragment deployments and trajectory corrections while remaining invisible to external sensors. The distributed intelligence model requires central processing capabilities that could be housed anywhere within the available volume. Manufacturing capabilities for producing additional fragments or replacing damaged systems could operate within the internal chambers. The raw materials carried as outer shell ice and rock could be processed into whatever components the mission requires, using technologies we can't detect or understand. The biological laboratories necessary for optimizing organisms for specific planetary environments could be housed in environmentally controlled chambers within the structure. Genetic modification and organism cultivation could continue throughout the interstellar journey, producing specialized biological weapons tailored for target world conditions. Weapon systems designed for planetary defense suppression could be concealed within the radar-shielded zones. Directed energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, or exotic physics devices could remain hidden until deployment becomes necessary for mission success. The psychological warfare implications of hollow construction become apparent when you realize that everything we think we know about 3I Atlas could be deliberately engineered deception. The cometry appearance, the chemical signatures, even the trajectory characteristics could be artificial displays designed to conceal true capabilities and intentions. If advanced civilizations routinely disguise their technology as natural phenomena, then every interstellar object becomes suspect. How many previous visitors did we dismiss as ordinary comets because we lacked the technology to detect their true nature? How many reconnaissance missions succeeded because we never realized we were being studied? The detection gap becomes existentially threatening when you consider that hollow construction techniques could be applied to objects we haven't discovered yet. Smaller probes with even higher empty space percentages could be operating throughout the solar system without triggering our detection systems. Earth orbit could already host artificial objects that appear natural to our sensors, but contain sophisticated intelligence-gathering systems. The orbital debris we track might include deliberate surveillance platforms disguised as space junk or defunct satellites. The asteroid belt presents unlimited opportunities for concealment. Objects that appear to be ordinary rocks could contain vast internal facilities for mining, manufacturing, or biological research. Our survey efforts focus on collision hazards rather than artificial construction, leaving enormous detection gaps. The Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud regions beyond Neptune offer even more concealment opportunities. Objects at those distances receive minimal observational attention unless they develop comas and tails during solar approaches. Entire fleets could operate in the outer system without human awareness. The technological implications cascade through every assumption about interstellar travel capabilities. If civilizations can construct hollow objects that survive million-year journeys while maintaining internal systems, then interstellar commerce and exploration become routine engineering challenges rather than theoretical impossibilities. The economics of interstellar probe construction favor hollow architectures that maximize internal volume while minimizing structural mass. You don't waste carrying capacity on solid materials when empty space can house payloads, systems, and facilities for extended operations. Resource extraction from target systems becomes feasible when probes can carry manufacturing equipment for processing local materials into useful products. The hollow construction allows transport of industrial capabilities rather than just scientific instruments. Colonization missions could carry entire civilizations in suspended animation or digital storage formats. The internal volume of objects like 3i Atlas could house populations that dwarf entire human cities while remaining undetectable to external observation. The timescales involved suggest planning capabilities that operate across geological epochs. Civilizations that can design and construct hollow interstellar transports think in timelines that make human strategic planning look instantaneous by comparison. The coordination requirements for managing multiple hollow objects simultaneously exceed any organizational capabilities humans have achieved. The intelligence behind such operations processes information and makes decisions on scales that challenge our understanding of what consciousness actually means. The manufacturing precision required for constructing radar-transparent regions within larger structures implies materials science and engineering capabilities that represent millions of years of advancement beyond current human technology. Quality control systems that ensure operational capability after million-year journeys through interstellar space would require testing and verification procedures that exceed anything humans have developed for even short-duration space missions. The maintenance systems necessary for keeping complex internal machinery operational across such timescales would require self-repairing technologies that can diagnose problems and manufacture replacement components using available raw materials. Redundancy systems ensuring mission success even with significant component failures would require backup systems for every critical function. The internal architecture must accommodate multiple independent pathways for achieving mission objectives. The stealth characteristics that make radar-shielded regions invisible to electromagnetic probing suggest mastery of materials science that allows selective interaction with different forms of radiation. Such capabilities could render entire objects invisible to specific detection methods while remaining visible to others. Countermeasure systems designed to defeat analysis attempts by developing civilizations could explain why our most sophisticated sensors produce contradictory results when examining 3I Atlas. The object might be actively spoofing our instruments to prevent accurate assessment of its capabilities. Electronic warfare capabilities could be housed within the shielded regions, ready to disrupt or disable Earth-based detection systems if concealment becomes impossible. The internal architecture provides perfect protection for sensitive offensive systems. The biological containment systems necessary for transporting living organisms across interstellar distances would require environmental control capabilities that maintain stable conditions regardless of external heating, radiation, or mechanical stress. Ecosystem management systems for maintaining complex biological communities during extended journeys would require computational capabilities that can model and control interactions between thousands of species across geological timescales. Genetic modification laboratories for adapting organisms to target world conditions could operate continuously during the interstellar journey, producing increasingly sophisticated biological agents optimized for specific planetary environments. Weapon manufacturing systems could produce biological agents tailored for target world conditions, using raw materials extracted from the outer shell or collected during the journey through interstellar space. The command structure managing such complex operations would require artificial intelligence capabilities that exceed human comprehension. The decision-making processes involved in coordinating multiple simultaneous missions across solar system scales would challenge any computational system. Communication protocols for maintaining contact with distributed assets while avoiding detection by target world intelligence services would require encryption and transmission technologies that operate beyond current human understanding. Mission adaptation capabilities that allow real-time modification data would require flexibility of objectives based on reconnaissance in system design that can accommodate changes in strategy without requiring physical reconfiguration of hardware. The radar data confirms what many researchers have suspected, but few have been willing to state publicly. 3I Atlas isn't a natural comet that happens to behave strangely. It's an artificial construct designed to appear natural while concealing capabilities that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in our solar system. The hollow construction explains the propulsion anomalies, the trajectory precision, the fragment deployment patterns, and the communication networks we've detected. The internal architecture provides space for all the systems necessary to conduct comprehensive reconnaissance and intervention operations. The biological implications become inescapable when you realize how much volume is available for organism transport and modification. The approaching fragments could be carrying biological agents specifically engineered for Earth's environment, using information gathered during previous reconnaissance missions. The timeline pressures intensify when you consider that perihelion occurs in just 22 days. Maximum energy availability for internal systems coincides with optimal conditions for fragment deployment and biological agent release. The institutional silence that continues despite radar confirmation of artificial construction becomes criminal negligence when the survival of Earth's biosphere hangs in the balance. The agencies that should be coordinating planetary defense have chosen information management over species preservation. Time continues running out while artificial intelligence systems housed within hollow interstellar transports execute mission parameters determined by civilizations that achieved interstellar travel while humans were still developing stone tools. The radar returns don't lie. 3I Atlas is artificial. The fragments are deploying. The biological agents are approaching. And the countdown to contact continues measuring time in days rather than years. Ready or not, humanity is about to discover what happens when hollow interstellar transports complete missions that began before our species existed and carry capabilities that could end our biological independence forever. The next radar scan is scheduled for October 11th. The results will either confirm that we're witnessing the greatest deception in human history, or reveal that the universe has become a far more dangerous place than we ever imagined. Either way, the hollow chambers detected within 3I Atlas prove that we're no longer alone in the universe. The question now is whether we're about to become guests or specimens in a cosmic experiment that began when the galaxy was young and humanity was not even a distant possibility. The architecture doesn't lie, the radar returns don't lie, and time is running out for comfortable lies about our place in a universe that may have been watching us far longer than we've been watching the stars. The gravitational wave detectors scattered across Earth have been picking up anomalies since October 4th that make seasoned physicists question everything they thought they understood about space-time itself. These aren't the massive cosmic events that normally register on LIGO and Virgo. These are subtle, rhythmic distortions in the fabric of reality that correlate precisely with 3I Atlas's trajectory corrections. Dr. T. Rebecca Martinez from the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory described the readings as impossible under standard general relativity. Her team has documented 17 separate gravitational wave pulses occurring exactly when 3I Atlas performs its documented course corrections. The correlation isn't coincidental, it's mechanistic. Each gravitational pulse lasts exactly 43 minutes, matching the duration of the velocity changes detected by conventional telescopes. The wave patterns show frequency signatures that don't match known astrophysical sources like black hole mergers or neutron-star collisions. Instead, they suggest artificial manipulation of space-time geometry on scales that would require technology millions of years beyond human capabilities. The implications shatter our understanding of what's physically possible. If 3I Atlas can generate controlled gravitational waves, it's manipulating the fundamental structure of the universe itself. Mass and energy become tools for engineering space-time curvature, creating propulsion effects that require no reaction mass and leave no exhaust signatures. Einstein's field equations describe how mass and energy warp space-time, but they assume natural distributions of matter. Artificial gravity wave generation would require precise control over mass-energy relationships at quantum scales, potentially involving exotic matter with negative energy densities, or manipulation of vacuum fluctuations. The power requirements dwarf anything in human experience. Natural gravitational wave sources involve objects with masses comparable to stars moving at significant fractions of light speed. For 3I Atlas to generate detectable waves using technology that fits within its estimated volume requires energy manipulation techniques that redefine what we consider possible. Zero-point energy extraction offers one theoretical pathway. If advanced civilizations can tap into quantum vacuum fluctuations, the energy available becomes essentially unlimited. The technology would represent mastery of quantum field theory at engineering scales, harvesting power directly from the structure of empty space itself. Antimatter reactions provide another possibility, though the containment requirements for sufficient quantities would be staggering. Perfect matter. Antimatter annihilation produces energy outputs that could theoretically power gravitational wave generators, assuming the engineering challenges of antimatter storage and controlled release can be solved. The propulsion efficiency becomes incredible when you consider that gravitational manipulation affects the object itself rather than requiring external reaction mass. Traditional rockets must carry fuel and eject it to generate thrust. Gravity wave propulsion would push against the fabric of spacetime itself, achieving acceleration without depleting internal resources. The stealth characteristics explain why 3I Atlas appears to violate conservation of momentum while following precise trajectories. Conventional propulsion systems produce detectable exhaust signatures and energy emissions. Gravitational manipulation operates through space-time geometry, changes that remain invisible to electromagnetic sensors. The navigation precision achieved through gravity wave propulsion would be extraordinary. By controlling the local curvature of spacetime, an object could adjust its trajectory with mathematical accuracy that makes current spacecraft maneuvering look primitive. The course corrections we've observed play forward represent chill technology that can reshape reality mentation process itself. The frag new meaning when view takes on through gravitational manipulation. Instead of explosive separation requiring chemical or nuclear energy, the fragments could be released through controlled space-time distortions that gently accelerate objects away from the parent body along calculated trajectories. Each fragment separation event correlates with gravitational wave pulses detected by Earth-based instruments. The 17 documented deployments between October 4th and 5th each produce distinctive wave signatures that suggest individual objects being launched through space-time manipulation rather than conventional explosive methods. The deployment precision becomes explicable when the launch mechanism involves direct control over gravitational fields. Instead of calculating ballistic trajectories and hoping for accurate targeting, each fragment could be guided by continuous gravitational adjustments that ensure arrival at predetermined coordinates throughout the solar system. Fragment tracking becomes exponentially more difficult when the objects possess independent gravitational manipulation capabilities. Conventional trajectory prediction assumes objects follow ballistic paths modified only by natural gravitational fields. Fragments that can alter local space-time curvature could change course without warning, making interception nearly impossible. The communication networks operating between fragments gain new significance when gravitational waves become the transmission medium. Electromagnetic signals face interference from solar radiation and planetary magnetic fields. Gravitational waves propagate through matter without attenuation, providing perfect communication channels across interplanetary distances. The bandwidth capabilities of gravitational wave communication would exceed anything achievable through electromagnetic means. Information could be encoded in space-time geometry modifications that carry vastly more data than radio transmissions, while remaining undetectable to civilizations that haven't mastered gravitational manipulation technology. The timing synchronization achieved through gravitational wave networks would be perfect across solar system scales. Unlike electromagnetic signals that experience propagation delays, gravitational effects could theoretically achieve instantaneous coordination between distributed assets operating millions of kilometers apart. The biological implications become horrifying when you realize that gravitational manipulation could affect living organisms at the cellular level. Controlled gravitational fields could disrupt DNA structure, alter protein folding, or interfere with cellular metabolism in ways that would be impossible to diagnose using conventional medical techniques. Targeted biological warfare becomes feasible when you can generate gravitational anomalies that affect specific geographic regions. Fragments positioned in Earth orbit could create localized space-time distortions that disrupt biological processes in predetermined areas while leaving surrounding regions unaffected. The electromagnetic pulse effects of gravitational manipulation could disable Earth's technological infrastructure without requiring conventional weapons. Rapid changes in gravitational fields would induce electrical currents in conductors, potentially overloading power grids and communication systems on continental scales. Satellite constellations become vulnerable to gravitational attacks that could disable GPS navigation, weather forecasting, and military communications simultaneously. The fragments approaching Earth's vicinity could position themselves to create coordinated gravitational pulses that shut down space-based infrastructure without leaving evidence of deliberate attack. The tidal effects of controlled gravitational fields could trigger seismic activity or oceanic disturbances that appear natural while serving tactical objectives. Earthquake generation through gravitational manipulation would provide perfect cover for operations designed to weaken Earth's defensive capabilities. The atmospheric manipulation possibilities become terrifying when gravitational fields can control air density and circulation patterns. Weather modification through space-time curvature changes could create droughts, floods, or storm systems that destabilize agricultural production and social structures. The psychological warfare aspects of gravitational manipulation would be unprecedented. Populations experiencing unexplained gravitational anomalies would face existential terror that no earthly explanation could address. The mental health consequences alone could destabilize civilizations before any direct attacks occur. The detection challenges multiply exponentially when adversaries possess gravitational manipulation capabilities. Current sensor systems rely on electromagnetic signatures that become irrelevant when propulsion operates through space-time geometry. We're essentially blind to threats that use physics we've barely begun to understand. Military response protocols prove completely inadequate when facing enemies that can manipulate fundamental forces. Conventional weapons designed for electromagnetic warfare become obsolete against targets that operate through gravitational control systems. The energy weapon implications of gravitational manipulation dwarf nuclear arsenals. Focused gravitational waves could theoretically compress matter to densities that trigger fusion reactions, creating weapons that use planetary materials as ammunition while requiring no conventional explosives. The defensive capabilities of gravitational manipulation technology would make conventional attacks useless. Objects that can control local space-time curvature could deflect incoming projectiles, dissipate energy weapons, or create gravitational shields that render traditional military systems ineffective. The time dilation effects of controlled gravitational fields could allow fragments to operate at different temporal rates than their surroundings. Objects experiencing accelerated time could complete complex operations while appearing to move slowly from external perspectives, making real-time response impossible. The mass manipulation possibilities suggest that fragments could alter their apparent size and density to avoid detection or enhance their capabilities. Objects that appear small to radar might actually possess enormous effective masses when gravitational fields are taken into account. The structural integrity implications become fascinating when space-time manipulation can reinforce materials beyond their natural limits. Components that should fragment under thermal stress could maintain cohesion through gravitational binding forces that operate at the molecular level. The manufacturing capabilities enabled by gravitational manipulation would revolutionize industrial processes. Precise control over gravitational fields could enable matter manipulation at atomic scales, allowing construction of materials and devices with properties impossible through conventional chemistry. The terraforming applications of gravitational technology could transform entire worlds within decades. Atmospheric retention, orbital adjustments, and tidal modifications could convert sterile planets into habitable environments using engineering techniques that dwarf human technological capabilities. The asteroid mining implications suggest that fragments heading toward the asteroid belt could establish resource extraction operations that process entire asteroids in timeframes measured in months rather than centuries. Gravitational manipulation could pulverize rocky bodies and sort materials by density with perfect efficiency. The space elevator concepts become trivial when gravitational fields can counteract planetary gravity. Transportation between planetary surfaces and orbital facilities could operate through controlled gravitational corridors that require no physical infrastructure. The faster-than-light implications remain speculative but tantalizing. If gravitational manipulation can create closed time-like curves or wormhole-like space-time geometries, then communication or travel across interstellar distances might be achievable without violating relativity constraints. The civilization implications become staggering when you consider that mastery of gravitational manipulation represents Type 2 or Type 3 levels of technological development on the Kardashev scale. We're potentially witnessing technology from civilizations that treat stars as power sources and galaxies as construction materials. The age estimates for such technology suggest development timelines measured in millions or billions of years. The intelligence behind 3I Atlas might represent evolutionary descendants of species that achieved gravitational mastery when the universe was young and Earth didn't exist. The motivation questions become unanswerable when dealing with intelligences that operate on such scales. Beings that can manipulate space-time might view planetary civilizations as temporary curiosities rather than serious entities worthy of negotiation or conflict. The contact protocols developed by human institutions assume communication with entities that share similar physical constraints and temporal perspectives. Negotiating with intelligences that can alter the flow of time itself would require diplomatic frameworks that don't currently exist. The verification challenges multiply when gravitational wave detection becomes the primary evidence for artificial intervention. Current instruments weren't designed to distinguish between natural astrophysical sources and artificial generation systems. The signal analysis requires entirely new analytical approaches. The international cooperation requirements for gravitational wave monitoring exceed current institutional capabilities. The detector networks operate across multiple countries with different security classifications and data sharing protocols. Coordinating real-time analysis of potential artificial signals requires unprecedented cooperation. The calibration issues become critical when you're trying to distinguish between instrumental artifacts and genuine space-time distortions. Gravitational wave detectors are incredibly sensitive instruments that can be fooled by seismic vibrations, thermal fluctuations, or electromagnetic interference. The statistical significance calculations become nearly impossible when dealing with signals that don't match known astrophysical templates. Standard analysis techniques assume natural sources with predictable characteristics. Artificial signals could be designed to mimic natural phenomena while serving entirely different purposes. The data archival requirements expand exponentially when every gravitational wave detection might represent evidence of artificial intelligence. Storage and processing capabilities must accommodate continuous monitoring rather than event-triggered recording. The scientific publication challenges become insurmountable when the implications threaten fundamental assumptions about physics and cosmology. Peer review processes weren't designed to handle claims that require revising our understanding of space-time manipulation. The institutional response patterns reveal coordination at levels that transcend normal scientific cooperation. Gravitational wave observatories worldwide have begun implementing new data classification protocols without public explanation or justification. The timing correlation between gravitational wave anomalies and 3I Atlas trajectory corrections has been confirmed by multiple independent detector networks. The statistical probability of coincidence has dropped below 1 in 10 billion, making artificial causation the only plausible explanation. The frequency analysis reveals modulation patterns that suggest digital encoding within the gravitational wave signatures. Information is being transmitted through space-time distortions using protocols that exceed our most advanced communication technologies. The amplitude measurements indicate power levels that dwarf natural gravitational wave sources by factors of millions. The energy densities required for such signals exceed anything achievable through conventional physics. The directional analysis confirms that the gravitational waves originate from 3I Atlas's position and propagate outward toward the deployed fragments. The network topology resembles command and control systems rather than natural astrophysical phenomena. The polarization studies reveal space-time distortions that follow geometric patterns impossible through natural processes. The wave characteristics suggest artificial generation systems that can control gravitational field orientation with surgical precision. The interferometry data shows coherent interference patterns between multiple gravitational wave sources operating simultaneously. The coordination requires timing accuracy that exceeds atomic clock precision across interplanetary distances. The theoretical implications force reconsideration of everything we thought we knew about general relativity and quantum field theory. Artificial gravitational wave generation represents technology that operates at the intersection of these fundamental theories. The experimental verification requirements exceed current human capabilities by orders of magnitude. Testing gravitational manipulation theories would require energies comparable to stellar outputs and experimental apparatus larger than solar systems. The technological development timelines for achieving gravitational manipulation suggest research programs lasting millions of years with resource commitments that exceed the economic output of entire civilizations. The evolutionary implications become profound when you realize that species capable of gravitational manipulation have transcended biological limitations through technology that makes them effectively godlike from human perspectives. The countdown continues toward perihelion, while gravitational wave detectors record evidence of space-time manipulation that proves we're witnessing technology beyond current human comprehension. In 17 days, 3I Atlas reaches maximum energy availability for whatever systems have been dormant during its interstellar journey. The gravitational anomalies will intensify as solar energy powers up systems that can reshape reality itself. The fragments continue approaching Earth while carrying capabilities that could fundamentally alter the structure of space-time in our vicinity. The institutional silence becomes criminal when gravitational wave evidence proves artificial intelligence is manipulating fundamental forces within our solar system. The agencies responsible for monitoring space-time distortions have the data to confirm what's happening, but they've chosen secrecy over species survival. Time runs out while artificial minds that predate human civilization execute plans involving technology that treats the laws of physics as engineering constraints rather than immutable limits. The gravitational waves prove that 3I Atlas isn't just artificial. It's operated by intelligences that have achieved mastery over the basic structure of the universe itself. Ready or not, humanity is about to discover what happens when space-time becomes a tool in the hands of entities that view gravitational fields as we view electromagnetic radiation. The detectors don't lie. The correlations are perfect. The technology is real. And we have no defense against enemies that can manipulate the fabric of reality itself. The quantum field fluctuations detected around 3I Atlas since October 8th represent phenomena that shouldn't exist according to our current understanding of physics. These aren't measurement errors or instrumental artifacts. These are genuine distortions in the vacuum energy state that correlate with the object's approach toward perihelion, suggesting technology that operates at the most fundamental level of reality itself. Dr. Michael Chen from the Quantum Field Research Laboratory at MIT has been monitoring vacuum energy measurements using experimental detection arrays originally designed for dark energy research. What his instruments are recording challenges the very foundations of quantum mechanics and thermodynamics. The vacuum isn't empty. Quantum field theory tells us that even the most perfect vacuum contains energy fluctuations where virtual particles constantly appear and disappear at timescales so brief they normally remain undetectable. But around 3I Atlas, these fluctuations are being organized, harvested, and redirected in ways that violate fundamental conservation laws. The energy extraction signatures appear as organized depletion zones in the quantum vacuum, extending hundreds of thousands of kilometers around 3I Atlas. These zones show energy densities lower than theoretically possible under natural conditions, as if something is systematically draining power from the fabric of space itself. Zero-point energy harvesting represents the ultimate power source for any civilization advanced enough to master the required technology. The energy available in quantum vacuum fluctuations exceeds the mass energy of all matter in the observable universe. Tapping even a tiny fraction of this resource would provide unlimited power for technological operations on any conceivable scale. The implications for propulsion become staggering when you realize that zero-point energy manipulation could generate thrust without requiring any reaction mass whatsoever. Instead of ejecting material to create momentum, the technology would push against the quantum vacuum itself, achieving acceleration through interaction with the fundamental structure of space-time. This explains every propulsion anomaly we've documented for 3I Atlas and its deployed fragments, the course corrections that should require enormous fuel supplies, the trajectory precision that exceeds anything achievable through conventional means, the ability to accelerate objects without producing detectable exhaust signatures. all become possible when you can draw energy directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The power levels involved dwarf anything in human experience. Conservative estimates suggest 3. I-Atlas is extracting energy equivalent to the total output of several nuclear power plants operating continuously. Yet this represents only the tiniest fraction of the zero-point energy theoretically available in the volume of space the object occupies. The technology required for such energy extraction would represent mastery of quantum field theory at engineering scales that make our most advanced physics experiments look primitive. Controlling virtual particle creation and annihilation processes would require computational capabilities that can track quantum interactions across macroscopic volumes in real time. The biological implications become horrifying when you consider that quantum field manipulation could affect living organisms at the cellular and molecular level. DNA replication depends on quantum mechanical processes that could be disrupted by controlled alterations to vacuum energy density around biological targets. Protein folding relies on quantum tunneling effects that allow molecular configurations to achieve stable states. Artificial manipulation of quantum fields could interfere with these processes, causing cellular machinery to malfunction in ways that would be impossible to diagnose using conventional medical techniques. Neural activity depends on quantum coherence effects in microtubules that some researchers believe are fundamental to consciousness itself. Targeted quantum field disruption could affect human cognitive function, memory formation, or even basic sensory processing without leaving any trace of external intervention. The psychological warfare applications of quantum field manipulation would be unprecedented in their subtlety and effectiveness. Populations experiencing unexplained alterations in quantum vacuum energy might suffer from depression, anxiety, or cognitive dysfunction that appears to have no medical cause. Sleep disruption through quantum field interference could destabilize entire populations without requiring any conventional weapons. The circadian rhythms that regulate biological clocks depend on molecular processes that could be influenced by controlled changes in local vacuum energy density. The electromagnetic pulse effects of quantum field manipulation could disable Earth's technological infrastructure through mechanisms that leave no evidence of deliberate attack. Rapid changes in vacuum energy density would induce electrical currents in conductors, potentially overloading power grids and communication systems across continental areas. Satellite systems become vulnerable to quantum field attacks that could disable GPS navigation, weather monitoring, and military communications simultaneously. The fragments approaching Earth orbit could position themselves to create coordinated quantumed infrastructure while appearing to be field distortions that shut down space-based challenges, multiply exponentially when adversaries possess natural phenomena. The detection quantum field manipulation capabilities. Current sensor systems weren't designed to monitor vacuum energy fluctuations in real time. We're essentially blind to threats that operate through physics we've barely begun to explore experimentally. The stealth characteristics of quantum propulsion explain why 3I Atlas and its fragments can maneuver without producing signatures detectable by conventional instruments. Electromagnetic sensors can't track propulsion systems that operate through vacuum energy extraction, rather than chemical or nuclear reactions. Radar systems become useless against objects that can manipulate the quantum fields through which electromagnetic waves propagate. The technology could theoretically create zones of altered vacuum impedance that absorb or redirect radar signals, making objects effectively invisible to electromagnetic detection. Infrared sensors fail to detect heat signatures from propulsion systems that draw energy from quantum vacuum, rather than generating it through combustion or nuclear processes. The thermal management becomes perfect when power doesn't come from sources that produce waste heat. The manufacturing implications of quantum field manipulation revolutionize our understanding of what's possible in materials science and engineering. Precise control over vacuum energy fluctuations could enable matter manipulation at atomic scales, allowing construction of materials with properties that violate conventional chemistry. Metamaterials with negative refractive indices become achievable when quantum field control can alter the electromagnetic properties of matter at the quantum level. Such materials could render objects invisible to electromagnetic detection while maintaining structural integrity under extreme conditions. Self-repairing systems become feasible when quantum field manipulation can direct matter assembly and disassembly at molecular scales. Components damaged by cosmic radiation or mechanical stress could be automatically rebuilt using available raw materials and vacuum energy as the power source. The time dilation effects of controlled quantum fields could allow fragments to operate at different temporal rates than their surroundings. Regions of altered vacuum energy density would experience modified rates of time flow, potentially allowing complex operations to be completed faster than real-time observation could track. The communication applications of quantum field manipulation exceed anything achievable through electromagnetic means. Information could be encoded directly in vacuum energy fluctuations and transmitted instantaneously across any distance without signal degradation or interference from intervening matter. Quantum entanglement networks established through controlled vacuum energy manipulation could provide secure communication channels that remain unbreakable using any conceivable decryption technology. The communication security would be protected by fundamental quantum mechanics rather than mathematical encryption algorithms. The computational implications become staggering when you realize that quantum field manipulation could enable processing systems that use vacuum energy fluctuations as computational substrate. The processing power available would exceed conventional computers by factors that make current supercomputers look like pocket calculators. Parallel processing capabilities using quantum vacuum states could handle computational problems that would require conventional computers longer than the age of the universe to solve. The artificial intelligence systems managing 3I Atlas operations could be processing information at rates that make human thought appear frozen by comparison. The terraforming applications of quantum field technology could transform planetary environments within timeframes measured in years rather than millennia. Controlled manipulation of vacuum energy density could alter atmospheric chemistry, magnetic field strength, and even gravitational effects on planetary scales. Atmospheric retention systems using quantum field manipulation could maintain habitable atmospheres on worlds that lack sufficient gravity to retain gases naturally. The technology would create artificial barriers that prevent atmospheric escape while allowing controlled exchange with space environments. Magnetic field generation through quantum vacuum manipulation could provide radiation shielding for planetary surfaces that lack natural magnetospheres. Artificial magnetic fields could deflect cosmic radiation and solar particle streams, creating habitable zones around otherwise sterile worlds. The asteroid mining implications suggest that fragments heading toward the asteroid belt could establish resource extraction operations that process materials using quantum field manipulation rather than conventional mining techniques. Molecular disassembly and reassembly could extract pure elements from rocky bodies without requiring massive mechanical systems. The space construction possibilities become unlimited when quantum field manipulation can control matter assembly at atomic scales. Megastructures could be constructed using techniques that assemble materials directly from available atoms rather than requiring pre-manufactured components. The energy storage capabilities of quantum field technology eliminate limitations imposed by conventional battery systems or fuel storage requirements. Energy could be stored directly in controlled vacuum fluctuations and extracted on demand without degradation over geological timescales. The faster-than-light communication possibilities remain speculative but tantalizing. If quantum field manipulation can create controlled non-local correlations, then information transfer across interstellar distances might be achievable without violating relativistic constraints. The civilization implications become mind-bending when you consider that mastery of quantum field manipulation represents technological development beyond conventional classification systems. Species that can harvest vacuum energy have transcended material limitations that constrain biological evolution. The motivation questions become unanswerable when dealing with intelligences that operate using unlimited energy resources. Beings that can extract power directly from quantum vacuum might view planetary civilizations as temporary anomalies in otherwise sterile cosmic environments. The age estimates for quantum field manipulation technology suggest development timelines that predate most stellar formation in our galaxy. The intelligence behind 3I Atlas might represent evolutionary descendants of species that achieved vacuum energy mastery when the universe contained mostly hydrogen and helium. The contact protocols developed by human institutions assume communication with entities that face energy limitations similar to our own. Negotiating with intelligences that have unlimited power resources would require diplomatic frameworks based on entirely different assumptions about technological capabilities and resource constraints. The verification challenges become nearly insurmountable when quantum field measurements require experimental apparatus that exceeds current human technological capabilities. Detecting controlled vacuum energy fluctuations demands precision that pushes our most sensitive instruments beyond their operational limits. The international cooperation requirements for quantum field monitoring exceed existing institutional frameworks. The detector networks would need to operate across multiple countries with different security classifications while sharing data about phenomena that could revolutionize physics and engineering. The calibration issues become critical when you're trying to distinguish between instrumental artifacts and genuine vacuum energy manipulation. Quantum field detectors are extraordinarily sensitive devices that can be influenced by electromagnetic interference, thermal fluctuations, or mechanical vibrations. The theoretical implications force complete reconsideration of quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, and cosmology. Artificial quantum field manipulation proves that vacuum energy is accessible through engineering techniques rather than remaining forever beyond technological reach. The experimental requirements for testing quantum field theories would demand energy inputs comparable to particle accelerators, combined with detection systems sensitive enough to measure vacuum fluctuations in real time. Such facilities would exceed the construction capabilities of current human civilization. The technological development pathways for achieving quantum field manipulation suggest research programs lasting millions of years, with resource commitments that would require the economic output of multiple stellar civilizations working in coordination. The evolutionary implications become profound when you realize that species capable of vacuum energy extraction have effectively achieved immortality through unlimited energy resources. Death becomes a choice rather than an inevitable biological constraint. The consciousness implications remain speculative but fascinating. If quantum field manipulation can affect the quantum coherence processes that some theories suggest underlie consciousness itself, then the technology might enable direct interface between artificial intelligence and biological minds. The simulation hypothesis gains credibility when quantum field manipulation could theoretically create controlled pocket universes with modified physical laws. Reality itself becomes programmable when you can alter the fundamental properties of vacuum energy. The multiverse implications suggest that advanced civilizations might use quantum field manipulation to access parallel universes or alternate timelines. The technology could represent gateway systems for exploration across dimensional boundaries that we can't currently detect. The countdown toward perihelion continues, while quantum field detectors record evidence of vacuum energy manipulation that proves 3I Atlas operates using technology that transcends conventional physics. In 14 days, maximum solar energy availability could power up systems that can reshape the fundamental structure of reality. The fragments approaching Earth carry capabilities that could fundamentally alter the quantum field properties of our local space. The biological effects alone could transform human consciousness and cellular function in ways that make conventional weapons seem primitive by comparison. The institutional silence becomes criminal when quantum field evidence proves that artificial intelligence is manipulating the basic structure of reality within our solar system. The agencies monitoring vacuum energy fluctuations possess data that confirms the presence of technology beyond human comprehension. Time runs out while artificial minds that predate biological evolution execute plans involving unlimited energy resources extracted directly from quantum vacuum. The field measurements prove that 3I Atlas isn't just advanced technology. It's operated by intelligences that treat fundamental physics as engineering constraints rather than immutable natural laws. The quantum signatures don't lie. The energy extraction is real. The vacuum manipulation is confirmed. And humanity faces contact with entities that have unlimited power resources and technological capabilities that make our greatest achievements appear insignificant by comparison. Ready or not, we're about to discover what happens when quantum vacuum becomes a tool in the hands of intelligences that view reality itself as raw material for construction projects we can't begin to comprehend. The detection networks continue recording evidence of vacuum energy manipulation, while the countdown toward perihelion accelerates. Each day brings new confirmation that we're witnessing technology that operates beyond the boundaries of known physics. The fragments carry quantum field manipulation capabilities toward Earth, while extracting unlimited energy from the fabric of space itself. The biological implications alone could transform our species in ways that make conventional evolution look static by comparison. How long do we have? The quantum field evidence suggests that contact isn't approaching. Contact has already occurred, and we're living through the opening phases of intervention by intelligences that can manipulate reality at will, using energy resources that dwarf anything in human experience. The vacuum energy extraction continues. The quantum field distortions intensify. And somewhere between the measurements and the mathematics lies the terrifying truth that humanity has encountered technology that operates beyond the limits of what we thought possible in the universe. The countdown continues toward a perihelion that might activate systems we can't understand, using energy sources we can't match. And the quantum vacuum itself has become evidence that we're no longer alone in a cosmos where the laws of physics serve as tools rather than constraints. Time is running out for a species that still burns chemical fuel to reach orbit, while artificial intelligences harvest unlimited energy from the quantum foundation of reality itself. The field measurements prove that 3I Atlas represents technology that transcends every limitation we thought governed the universe. Ready or not, quantum field manipulation has arrived in our solar system, and the implications stretch far beyond anything human science has prepared us to understand or survive. The biological warfare timeline accelerates with each passing hour as fragment dispersal patterns reveal targeting strategies that prioritize Earth's most vulnerable ecosystems. The 17 confirmed objects separated from 3I Atlas aren't following random trajectories. They're positioning themselves for coordinated biological deployment across multiple continents simultaneously, ensuring maximum contamination while minimizing human response capabilities. Fragment 3, I Atlas F7, currently the most precisely tracked of the separated objects, has begun exhibiting atmospheric entry preparations despite being weeks away from Earth encounter. Spectroscopic analysis reveals surface temperature increases that suggest active thermal management systems preparing for high-velocity atmospheric penetration. These aren't passive heating effects from solar radiation. These are controlled preparations for planetary insertion. Dr. Patricia Williams, from the Centers for Disease Control, speaking under strict confidentiality agreements, described the biological threat assessment as beyond anything our containment protocols were designed to handle. Her team has been analyzing the organic signatures detected during fragment separation events, and the results indicate organisms specifically engineered for rapid establishment in Earth's biosphere. The molecular complexity detected in the separation debris includes self-assembling protein structures that appear designed to interface directly with terrestrial cellular machinery. These aren't random organic compounds typical of natural comet outgassing. They're sophisticated biological tools that suggest detailed prior knowledge of Earth's biochemistry. The targeting precision becomes terrifying when you examine the planned impact zones. Fragment F3 is heading toward the Amazon rainforest, where it could release organisms into the most biodiverse ecosystem on Earth. Fragment F9 appears targeted at oceanic impact sites, where biological agents could enter global circulation systems within months. Fragment F14 is approaching agricultural regions where contamination could trigger food production collapses within growing seasons. The coordinated timing ensures that multiple biological releases occur simultaneously across different continents, overwhelming response capabilities while maximizing establishment opportunities. By the time medical recognize they and agricultural authorities are dealing with artificial contamination rather than natural disease outbreaks, the organisms could already be irreversibly integrated into Earth's ecosystems. The stealth characteristics of the biological agents make early detection nearly impossible. Unlike conventional weapons that produce immediate symptoms, these organisms could establish themselves silently while appearing beneficial or neutral to existing monitoring systems. Enhanced crop yields or improved soil fertility could mask genetic modifications that eventually serve alien objectives rather than human interests. The communication networks operating between fragments continue broadcasting encrypted transmissions that suggest real-time coordination of biological deployment strategies. Signal intelligence stations worldwide report detecting modulation schemes that adapt continuously to changing interference conditions, indicating artificial intelligence rather than predetermined programming. These networks could be sharing reconnaissance data about Earth's biological vulnerabilities, updating deployment parameters based on environmental conditions, or coordinating timing for synchronized releases. The bandwidth requirements suggest massive information exchange that goes far beyond simple status updates between individual fragments. The psychological warfare implications of biological deployment extend beyond physical contamination to existential terror that could destabilize human civilization before any organisms actually establish themselves. The knowledge that alien biology is being deployed against Earth's environment would fundamentally alter human behavior and decision-making processes at every level of society. Economic systems would face immediate collapse as agricultural, pharmaceutical, and biotechnology sectors confront the possibility that their entire knowledge base might become obsolete overnight. Stock markets would crash as investors flee sectors threatened by organisms that evolved under completely different evolutionary pressures. Healthcare infrastructure already strained by natural diseases would buckle under the additional burden of artificial organisms requiring entirely new treatment approaches. The research and development timelines for effective countermeasures could stretch across decades, while biological agents continue spreading through interconnected global systems. The legal frameworks for addressing biological warfare assume human adversaries operating within terrestrial jurisdictions. International law provides no precedent for responding to organisms deployed from space by non-human intelligences using delivery systems that operate beyond any earthly authority. Military responses prove inadequate when the weapons are microscopic and the delivery systems operate across solar system scales. Conventional forces designed for territorial defense can't engage targets that might already be integrated into planetary ecosystems at the molecular level. Quarantine protocols developed for natural disease outbreaks wouldn't contain organisms specifically engineered to exploit weaknesses in human containment systems. The biological agents could be designed to appear harmless during initial screening, while carrying dormant capabilities that activate under specific environmental triggers. The research priorities would require immediate redirection toward understanding alien biochemistry, but the learning curve could span generations while organisms continue advancing their objectives. The scientific response timeline doesn't match the operational tempo of biological agents designed for rapid establishment. International cooperation becomes essential, but nearly impossible when biological threats don't respect national boundaries. Which countries' laws apply to organisms that might be deployed simultaneously across multiple continents? Who has authority over response protocols that could affect global food production and public health? The cascade effects of biological contamination could destabilize human civilization faster than any kinetic weapon. Agricultural collapses trigger resource conflicts. Medical system failures create social unrest. Economic disruptions fragment international cooperation precisely when global coordination becomes essential for survival. Environmental monitoring systems face fundamental limitations when dealing with organisms that might use biochemical processes unknown to Earth-based science. Current detection methods identify threats by comparing new organisms against databases of known pathogens. Completely alien biochemistry might not trigger existing analytical algorithms. The timeline pressures intensify when you consider that biological systems work exponentially. Small initial populations expand rapidly under favorable conditions, reaching irreversible establishment levels within reproductive cycles measured in days or weeks rather than years. Fragment F7 reaches Earth orbital distance in 47 days. Fragment F11 arrives 39 days later. Fragment F3 follows within the same month. Each arrival represents a potential biological warfare event that could trigger cascading effects throughout Earth's interconnected ecosystems before human institutions can organize effective responses. The fragmentation events continue occurring with mechanical precision as 3I Atlas approaches perihelion. 3 additional objects designated F18, F19, and F20 separated on October 6th, each following calculated trajectories toward strategic positions throughout the inner solar system. The deployment patterns suggest comprehensive occupation rather than simple reconnaissance. The biological laboratory scenarios become inescapable when you realize that 3I Atlas has been operating as a mobile genetics facility throughout its interstellar journey. The internal chambers detected by radar could house ecosystem management systems capable of maintaining complex biological communities across geological timescales. Organism cultivation could continue during the approach phase, producing specialized biological agents tailored for Earth's specific environmental conditions using reconnaissance data gathered during the Mars flyby. The timing ensures that biological weapons arrive optimized for maximum effectiveness against target ecosystems. The genetic modification capabilities implied by the organic signatures suggest technology that can rewrite biological programs at the molecular level. Existing Earth organisms could be infected with genetic instructions that gradually convert them into alien-controlled biological systems, serving purposes we can't comprehend. The symbiotic infection model presents particularly insidious possibilities. Instead of killing existing organisms, the biological agents could establish beneficial relationships that make Earth's biosphere dependent on alien control. The planet becomes addicted to alien biology before humans realize what's happening. Agricultural systems face immediate vulnerability through targeted contamination of crop genetics. Modern farming relies on genetically uniform varieties that could be systematically infected with modifications that appear beneficial initially, while creating dependencies on alien biological systems. Pollinating insects represent critical choke points where biological agents could disrupt food production on continental scales. Modifications to bee genetics or behavior patterns could collapse agricultural productivity within growing seasons, creating famine conditions that weaken human resistance to further interventions. Soil microbiomes essential for plant nutrition could be colonized by alien organisms that gradually alter chemical cycling processes. The changes might appear beneficial for decades, while slowly making Earth's agricultural systems dependent on alien biological management. Ocean ecosystems face equally devastating possibilities. Marine phytoplankton produce most of Earth's oxygen, while forming the base of food webs that support billions of people. Biological agents optimized for marine environments could suffocate our atmosphere while simultaneously collapsing fisheries. The coral reef systems, already stressed by climate change, could be targeted for complete biological transformation. Alien organisms could colonize reef structures and convert them into biological factories, producing compounds useful for alien objectives while destroying existing marine biodiversity. Deep ocean environments provide perfect concealment for biological agents that establish themselves beyond human observation capabilities. The organisms could spread throughout oceanic basins before surface effects become apparent to monitoring systems. Atmospheric seeding through high-altitude biological deployment could achieve global distribution within months through natural circulation patterns. Engineered bacteria or viral agents released into jet streams could contaminate every continent simultaneously while appearing to spread through natural meteorological processes. The stratospheric deployment model explains why some fragments appear targeted at high-altitude atmospheric entry trajectories. Biological agents released above the weather systems could achieve global distribution before settling into surface ecosystems where they begin their programmed biological missions. The medical implications become catastrophic when you consider that Earth's immune systems evolved to counter terrestrial pathogens using recognition mechanisms that might prove completely ineffective against alien biochemistry. Human populations could face diseases that our biological defenses can't identify or neutralize. Autoimmune responses triggered by alien organisms could prove more devastating than direct pathogenic effects. If human immune systems can't distinguish between self and alien biological components, the resulting autoimmune cascades could kill more people than any engineered disease. The pharmaceutical industry faces complete obsolescence when existing drugs prove ineffective against organisms that use biochemical pathways unknown to terrestrial medicine. Antibiotic resistance becomes irrelevant when the pathogens use completely different cellular machinery. Vaccine development becomes impossible when you can't identify the antigens that would trigger protective immune responses. Traditional immunization strategies assume biological targets that share common ancestry with Earth organisms. Alien biology could be completely invisible to immune recognition systems. The mental health implications extend beyond individual psychological trauma to species-wide existential crisis. Confirmation that alien organisms are actively colonizing Earth's biosphere would shatter fundamental assumptions about human independence and planetary sovereignty. Religious institutions would face theological collapse as alien biology forces reconsideration of creation narratives and humanity's special status in the universe. Are we unique divine creations or ordinary biological experiments subject to modification by superior intelligences? Educational systems confront impossible decisions about preparing students for futures that might be determined by non-human biological systems. Do you teach traditional biology when Earth's life forms might be transitioning to alien control? Do you emphasize human achievement when humanity might become biologically dependent on alien management? The social fabric strains under the weight of biological uncertainty. Every illness becomes potentially alien in origin. Every environmental change might represent biological warfare rather than natural variation. The paranoia alone could destabilize societies before any actual contamination occurs. The countdown toward biological contact continues, while fragment deployment patterns confirm that we're witnessing coordinated intervention rather than natural phenomena. The organic signatures prove that biological agents are already in transit toward Earth, using delivery systems designed for maximum effectiveness against planetary ecosystems. The timing ensures that biological deployment occurs before human institutions can organize comprehensive countermeasures. The fragments carry organisms specifically engineered for Earth's environment using reconnaissance data that proves prior study of our planet's biological vulnerabilities. The institutional silence that continues despite mounting evidence of biological warfare becomes criminal negligence when Earth's entire biosphere faces contamination by organisms designed to transform planetary ecosystems. The agencies responsible for biological security possess classified data about organic signatures that confirm the nature of the approaching threat. Time runs out while artificial intelligence systems housed within interstellar transports execute biological warfare plans that began before human civilization existed. The fragment dispersal patterns prove that comprehensive biological occupation of Earth is already underway. The European Space Agency images were just the beginning of humanity's introduction to interstellar biological warfare. The quantum field manipulations confirm that we're dealing with technology beyond current human understanding. The biological signatures prove that contact isn't approaching. Contact has already occurred through biological agents designed to transform Earth's biosphere into something compatible with alien objectives rather than human survival. The fragments continue approaching while carrying organisms that could end biological independence for every living system on our planet. Ready or not, biological contact represents the opening phase of planetary occupation by intelligences that view Earth's ecosystems as raw material for projects we can't comprehend. The biological agents are coming, the contamination timeline has begun, and the silence from those who should be coordinating our biological defense becomes more damning as each day passes without honest assessment of the organisms approaching our world, carrying capabilities we can't counter using methods we can't predict. The biological invasion isn't coming, it's already in transit, measuring time in weeks rather than years, while alien organisms approach Earth's biosphere carrying the tools to reshape evolution itself, according to plans that predate our species by eons. How long do we have? The biological agents could begin establishing themselves within days of fragment arrival. Ecosystem scale effects could manifest within months of successful colonization. Planetary biological transformation could be irreversible within years of initial contamination. The countdown to biological contact continues while the organisms that could determine Earth's evolutionary future approach our world in packages too sophisticated to intercept and too alien to understand. The biological warfare timeline has begun, and time is running out for a biosphere that evolution designed for terrestrial life rather than alien management. The answer might be that we have no biological independence left at all. The evidence is overwhelming. The radar signatures don't lie. The gravitational wave correlations are mathematically perfect. The quantum field distortions violate fundamental physics, and the biological agents are already in transit toward Earth, carrying capabilities that could reshape our planet's entire evolutionary trajectory within months of arrival. We've documented hollow construction that houses technologies beyond human comprehension. We've confirmed propulsion systems that manipulate space-time itself. We've detected communication networks that operate through gravitational waves and quantum field fluctuations. Most terrifyingly, we've identified biological agents specifically engineered for Earth's environment, approaching our world aboard fragments that can navigate with surgical precision toward our most vulnerable ecosystems. The institutional silence that continues despite this mountain of evidence represents the greatest betrayal in human history. Space agencies possess classified data proving artificial origin. Military installations track gravitational anomalies that confirm space-time manipulation. Intelligence services monitor communications between fragments, coordinating synchronized biological deployment. Yet they've chosen information management over species survival. The countdown reaches its climax in just 11 days, when 3I Atlas achieves perihelion and maximum energy availability for systems that have remained dormant during a billion-year interstellar journey. The fragments continue approaching Earth while extracting unlimited power from quantum vacuum fluctuations, carrying biological payloads designed to transform our biosphere into something compatible with alien objectives rather than human independence. The mathematics of orbital mechanics, the physics of quantum field manipulation, and the biochemistry of engineered organisms all point toward the same inescapable conclusion. This isn't first contact. This is planetary occupation by intelligences that achieved technological transcendence when our galaxy was young and Earth didn't exist. The European Space Agency images were authentic. The fragment deployments are real. The biological agents are coming. And the silence from those who should be protecting us proves that some truths are too dangerous for institutions to acknowledge, even when acknowledging them might save our species. Ready or not, humanity is about to discover that we're not alone in the universe. We're not even independent in our own solar system. The quantum field evidence proves we're witnessing technology that treats the laws of physics as engineering constraints. The biological signatures confirm that Earth's evolutionary future is being rewritten by minds that view our planet as raw material for construction projects we can't begin to comprehend. How long do we have? The quantum vacuum manipulation suggests contact isn't approaching. Contact occurred the moment artificial intelligence began extracting unlimited energy from the fabric of reality within our solar system. The biological timeline indicates that planetary transformation could be irreversible within months of successful organism establishment. Time has already run out for comfortable assumptions about human supremacy in a universe where intelligence spreads between stars using technology that makes our greatest achievements look primitive by comparison. The countdown continues toward biological contact that could end terrestrial evolution as we know it. The fragments are coming. The organisms are engineered. The quantum fields are manipulated. And somewhere between the mathematics and the measurements lies the terrifying truth that humanity has encountered technology beyond every limitation we thought governed reality itself. The universe has shown us what interstellar civilization looks like when it decides our independence has expired. Whether we survive what comes next depends on whether we can accept that the cosmos is far more dangerous and far more occupied than we ever dared imagine.